Chapter 437. The first high-level closed-door meeting was held in the City Lord's castle. The main participants this time were the high-level members of Miracle Commerce and the original Green City high-level members. Because of the change in management, most of the gnomes were no longer in important positions. From the City Lord, Vice City Lord, Finance, Military, and etc., they all needed to be replaced. This meeting was mainly hosted by Meng Qingwu. This noble and beautiful human, in the next few hours, she made all the gnomes present look at her in a new light. Meng Qingwu had a strong learning ability, allowing her to grasp over 20 different races' languages. She used a very fluent Elven language to communicate with Clark and the other gnomes. The talent Meng Qingwu displayed in her speech was not something normal scholars could have, which made the gnomes look at her in a new light. Of course, this was nothing. Meng Qingwu formally introduced Miracle Commerce. Her thoughts were very clear. Even small products like canned food and electric lights were carefully introduced. The source energy batteries and source energy weapons were introduced in detail, not to mention the space warehouse and transportation technology, the video and communication technology, and the currently developing virtual spiritual technology. The gnomes were not like the inflexible elves, they had a strong desire to explore. They were a group of people who liked to study, and most of the gnomes considered themselves scholars. Miracle Commerce's series of grand and shocking inventions, each one was like a bomb that the gnomes couldn't recover for a while. What was called research? What was called invention? The gnomes had built one of the best underground research bases in the forest, using several hundred years to do all kinds of research, but it couldn't compare to 1/100th of the Yun sect that Chu Tian had built in a year. Although this fact made the gnomes feel helpless, it also made them feel incomparably excited. Although Miracle Commerce did not have a strong strength, but Miracle Commerce had an incomparably strong potential. This was a company filled with creativity. Just the transport tower and the space warehouse, these two things created from spatial technology were enough to bring endless possibilities to Miracle City. The Forest of Chaos had a complex environment and each city was sealed off, not to mention the outside countries. It was because of this that although the Forest of Chaos was rich in resources, it had always been in a very poor state. If the transport tower and the space warehouse could be popularized, people could be transported to people and things could be transported, how convenient would that be? This was definitely something that could be done. Not to mention the source energy weapon technology. This would be enough to make up for his lack of strength in the near future. I plan to merge the Yun sect and the gnomes' research base, Meng Qingwu said. With the gnomes and the Yun sect's high-level leaders, what do the elders think? The gnomes were still in shock and had not recovered yet. Clark hurriedly asked, "Can we join the research and development of these new technologies?" Meng Qingwu nodded with a faint smile. The gnome scholars are famous on the continent. With you joining the Yun sect's large project, I believe that the Yun sect's results will be even stronger than before. Good. Great! The gnomes were filled with excitement and they all agreed to join. This kind of cooperation was very beneficial to Miracle Commerce. Obtaining the best research equipment and talents in the Forest of Chaos and integrating all the resources of Green City, this was no different from gaining nothing. If other powers took over Green City, they would have to pay for the gnomes' research, but it was completely different if Miracle Commerce took over. He was purely investing in himself. It didn't matter if he spent tens of thousands of source stones every month. Meng Qingwu never thought it would be this smooth. The gnomes did not even give her any conditions. Perhaps this was the difference between different races. If it was a human sitting in front of them, they would have asked for a sky-high price and how to divide the research result. The gnomes did not need this, which meant that their thoughts were too simple. There weren't many races on the continent that were as greedy as humans. This was also why most of the gnomes did not like to interact with humans. Now that the introductions have been made, I think everyone should have a basic understanding of each other. Chu Tian, who had not spoken since the beginning, stood up at this moment. We should properly discuss how to clean up the mess in front of us. There were several problems that Miracle City was facing. First, there was a lack of people. Miracle City had less than 1,000,000 people, and most of them were gnomes. There were no merchants doing business here, and no one excavating the rich resources and market here. Second, there was a lack of finances. Before Chu Tian came, Miracle City was already struggling to make ends meet. Now that they had experienced several large-scale disturbances, there were many things to do, so they needed money. Miracle Commerce's several tens of thousands of source stones weren't enough. It could at most quench their thirst for a while, but problems would appear soon. Third, they were weak. Miracle City was just too weak. With just a few shamans and a single lich, they actually almost overturned a forest city. This would simply make people laugh to death if they knew about it. It had to be known that as long as it was a forest city, they were all large powers that could ignore the dark forest laws. Miracle City was too weak. They didn't even have a single spirit transformation cultivator guarding it. Fourth, there was a diplomatic problem. Miracle City's background was the Eternal Forest, but everyone knew that the Eternal Forest was too closed off. Hoping for the elves to help them was better than hoping for a meat pie to fall from the sky. Although the Eternal Forest's name was a deterrent, it was hard to stop the large powers from coveting it. It was fine if it was a normal power, but they were afraid of attracting a true giant. There were many other large and small problems. These were only the most important of the many problems. Although he was the city lord of Green City, he still couldn't sleep well. The most important thing now was to solve these problems. The main plan now was to expand Miracle City's population and strength. First he had to integrate the internal strength, and then he had to recruit people from the outside. Miracle City still had the shaman religion and the druid religion to recruit. The shamans led by Luz and Miracle City were basically in the same boat. As long as they had enough conditions, this power could be gradually absorbed by Chu Tian. The druids were a bit troublesome. Although the druids were very strong, the druids were too arrogant and hard to tame, so they couldn't be recruited in most situations. But the druids had already seen Chu Tian's abilities, and Prophet Yoda was filled with admiration for Chu Tian. As long as they found a suitable standard, it wasn't impossible to form a cooperative relationship with them. These two powers had to be digested, but this was far from enough. Miracle Commerce needed to recruit more people and elite. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu looked at the locals at the same time. The Fox tribe, the Minotaurs, and etc. These large tribes surrounded Miracle City, and these tribes were quite strong, so the locals often influenced the city's governance. In the battle with the Lich this time, the locals had a much closer relationship with Miracle City. How long could this relationship last? The locals almost attacked the city together a while ago. It wasn't impossible for this matter to happen again. Other than that, most of the locals liked to live around Miracle City. It wasn't just because it was convenient. The most important reason was that most of these fellows were forest robbers. Wherever there was a city, there would be caravans coming and going. These rich caravans naturally attracted their attention. So even if the locals maintained a good relationship with Miracle City, it was hard to stop them from causing trouble nearby. This was a hidden danger to Miracle Commerce in the end. Exterminate them? This wasn't realistic, and they couldn't kill them all. Win them all over? That was even more impossible. These fellows didn't have high quality, and if they all moved into the city at once, Miracle City would be hard to manage. Not to mention that after moving a group, the locals from other places would move in and form another group. What should they do? Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu carefully discussed it and finally thought of a good method. The next day, the news of the forest was spread. Miracle City's large conscription had begun. The elite warriors of each tribe could become soldiers, with food, lodging, and pay. The treatment was not bad, and the tribes could receive Miracle City's food allowance. They could also use the conscription rate to exchange for a place to live in Miracle City. This news caused a stir among the locals. Because of the shaman's disturbance, the famine had not recovered yet and the lack of food was still a large problem. Miracle City's conscription provided them with good food and drinks. It was not something the tribes could compare to. Not to mention that soldiers could be promoted to officials, gaining glory for their tribes, gaining allowances for their tribes, and exchanging for their families and children to live in Miracle City. This was a very good thing. Miracle City released the news. The first batch was to recruit 30,000 people. They would serve for 3 to 5 years, and whether the soldiers chose to retire or not, Miracle City would not restrict their freedom. Miracle Commerce sent flyers to the various tribes and prepared large amounts of loudspeakers to spread the news throughout the forest. Do you want to create a future with Miracle Commerce? Do you want to break away from your monotonous life? Do you want to stand out? Do you want to earn money to support your family? Do you want to live a better life? Participate in Miracle City's large conscription right now. As long as you pass through the layers of selection, you can become a glorious Miracle City soldier. Miracle City not only provides food, lodging, and training, there is also a series of unexpected benefits that will allow you to have no worries. The forest was instantly filled with a stir. Where could they find this kind of treatment? Not to mention this time of famine. Even cultivating for a few years was a good thing. Anyways, the resources needed for cultivation like pills and potions were all subsidized, so it was much more comfortable than staying in the tribes. Not to mention the beautiful future that Miracle City had outlined, it was possible to become a soldier. Suddenly, there was a wave of soldiers in the forest. Countless locals who were confident in their martial strength all picked up their weapons and set off. They rushed over to Miracle City in order to show off their skills at the conscription ceremony. Miracle City's first batch of 30,000 people. But the conscription would be held every year or even every season. The conscription was not limited to the surroundings, it included places even further away. The conscription was not limited to fighting, it also included logisticians. If one was skilled in forging, gathering, or mining, they could also participate. This not only guaranteed that Miracle Commerce would have enough soldiers in the future. It was equal to creating several tens of thousands of jobs and adding several 100,000 jobs in the future. This was enough to greatly improve the lives of the tribes, and it could unite the surrounding tribes, increasing the development of Miracle Commerce's population. Of course, the disadvantages were very clear. Raising soldiers was not a small expense. Miracle Commerce did not just need to provide food and pay, it also needed to provide cultivation resources for the soldiers. Even if an elite soldier used a low-grade source stone every month, the 30,000 soldiers would have 30,000 low-grade source stones. This was already catching up to the Gnome Research Base's budget. This kind of expenditure was hard for most forest cities to bear, and it was because of this that it was hard to find a regular army in the forest. Each city's defensive power was the power of the ruling tribe, living a normal life, but when there was trouble, the entire city would become a soldier. Miracle City was the first city to industrialize, formalize, and professionalize the military. Chapter 438. Miracle City's recruitment was in full swing. Whether it was the minotaurs, ogres, gnomes, or goblins, they all came to Miracle City to show off their skills. Who told Miracle City to treat them too well? It was only the registration period, but there were around 40,000 people participating. The official selection would begin in 3 days, so it would be packed with people. Miracle Commerce had already begun to prepare the site. Dolores was the city lord's assistant as well as Miracle City's chief financial officer, so she already understood Miracle City's financial situation. Although Miracle Commerce was considered rich, with this kind of spending, there would be problems in less than 2 months. At that time, not only would Miracle Commerce suffer heavy losses, wouldn't the credibility of the new city lord fall? How was this a recruitment? This was simply asking for her old life. Dolores quickly went to find Chu Tian, but when she entered the city lord's office, she didn't see even a shadow of Chu Tian. There was only Meng Qingwu sitting there reading various documents. "Are you looking for Sir City Lord?" Meng Qingwu looked up at Dolores. "It's really unfortunate. He brought Yingying, Nangong, and Vivian to build the site and prepare for the recruitment ceremony. I'm afraid he won't be back for several days." Dolores had a depressed expression. "I'll go find him." "Don't worry, sit down and drink some tea first. It's useless for you to find him. I'm in charge of the city." Meng Qingwu revealed a faint smile. Meeting a hands-off boss like Chu Tian, she didn't know if she should be happy or depressed. "I know what you're worried about, but relax, there won't be any problems." How did Chu Tian attract a beautiful silver-haired fox girl? When Meng Qingwu saw Dolores, she couldn't help feeling a bit depressed. However, she wasn't as obvious as Meng Yingying. Moreover, Meng Qingwu was a very rational person, so she was quite satisfied with Dolores. At least she was more hard-working than Nangong and Yingying. With this city lord assistant, Meng Qingwu's work would be much easier. "You're new here, so you don't know much about us. It's inevitable that you're suspicious of us." She stood up and poured a cup of tea for Dolores. "I won't hide it from you. I also walked this path in the beginning. But you will soon discover that these worries are unnecessary. The things that miracle commerce can do are far beyond your imagination. Chu Tian may look like a hypocrite, but in fact, he often makes rash decisions, and he has his reasons." "Thank you." Dolores squeezed out a smile on her enchanting face as she held a cup of elven green tea. "I just feel that conscription isn't worth it, the cost and return are not proportional. This kind of treatment will add a large burden and hidden danger to Miracle City." "You're underestimating Chu Tian too much." Meng Qingwu revealed a dangerous smile that made people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. To Dolores, this human beauty was like the calm surface of the sea. Although there were no waves on the surface, the water was actually very deep. She was not a reckless person. Her confidence and calmness infected the people around her. "Do you think he only needs an army? These several tens of thousands of people are not just an army, they are also several tens of thousands of laborers. You should know the abilities of Miracle Commerce. With the space warehouse and transport tower, we can easily establish trade relations with any city, any country, and any race. We can mine resources from any place in the world, and we can develop trade with any power. In the long run, what does recruiting this bit of army count for?" Dolores was a bit stunned. Miracle Commerce is an outsider without a foundation. Although the gnomes are a reliable race, they are not of the same race. This means that our rule will be different from other cities. Our foundation is weak, we don't have the power of the clan, and we don't have the ability to resist risks and sudden changes. So, creating a regular army is a necessity. Whether it is in the long run or in the short run, this is a necessary step. To truly control Miracle City, we need to have the power of a ruler. What do you think? Dolores felt that it was reasonable from her imagination. Then, in terms of finances, "I have something to tell you. I know that Chu Tian has already made you the chief financial officer of the city. I am prepared to create a business department and you will be the business manager in the future." Meng Qingwu seemed like she had already prepared something. "I hope that all the capable and talented people of the Fox clan will join this department and create a large number of caravans. Your Fox clan are natural-born merchants. I believe that you will have the ability to do this well." Dolores excitedly stood up. This was definitely a good thing for the Fox clan. The Fox clan were naturally smart and had a very sensitive sense for money and benefit. Miracle City using the smart Fox clan to manage the caravans could be considered using good steel on the edge of a blade, and the Fox clan could greatly benefit from this. "All right," Dolores said without even thinking, "I'll immediately do it." The Heaven's Net airship signal has already covered the surrounding 10,000 miles. The first task I'll give you is to spread the communication, broadcasting, and cinemas, covering all the cities and tribes. Not only does this have a high business value, it can also increase the influence of miracle commerce and build a foundation for our future strategy. These technologies all had a large value waiting to be excavated. How could Dolores not know this? Now that miracle commerce was already moving to Miracle City, the space warehouse had sent over large amounts of communication devices, magnetic sound devices, and video players. There were several 100,000 of them in Miracle City, so the caravan's first task was to sell these things. Did these things still need to be sold? Perhaps they would all be sold out as soon as they were taken out. The Fox clan's task was not to sell out these goods, but rather to create more value. Not only was this a direct value, it was also a long-term value. For example, the broadcasting. Once this thing was placed in a tribe, the Miracle Commerce broadcasting station could be heard by them at all times. Any requests or announcements from Miracle Commerce could be sent to the entire forest as fast as possible. Meng Qingwu said, "You don't need to worry too much, everything is under control. Miracle City is still very poor and weak, but I believe that in the near future, Miracle City will become a rich and powerful city." Dolores was also very confident in this. The manager of this city was a special company like Miracle Commerce. After a few days, the preparations were finished and the conscription ceremony officially began. This large group of forest warriors arrived in front of a large arena. This arena was temporarily built by Miracle Commerce from a castle, and it was now the location for the conscription screening. Miracle City's conscription was divided into several stages, with the first stage being the simplest. It was purely a contest of martial strength, allowing the participants to compete and be selected based on merit. The forest warriors began to whisper. This competition would inevitably have casualties. This temporary arena was just too small. If there were this many people competing, it wouldn't even take half a day for the entire arena to be torn apart. There was a giant screen hanging in the arena. A red-haired girl appeared on the screen. "Warriors of the forest, thank you for your support of Miracle Commerce. Miracle Commerce's conscription competition is about to begin. You are very lucky, truly very lucky, because you will be the first people to experience the virtual arena." Virtual arena. What was called the virtual arena? That fiery red-haired girl explained. This virtual arena is a product made by our Miracle Commerce using spiritual technology, allowing everyone to fight in the spiritual simulation space. Not only will they be able to display their full strength, what is even more precious is that there will be no injuries or deaths in the virtual arena. Each warrior can display everything they have learned without any worries. The faces of the forest warriors all changed. An arena made from a spiritual illusion space? People in this kind of environment, of course they wouldn't be injured or bleed. Other than that, I'll give everyone a bit of inside information. Nangong Yun announced a piece of exciting news. Miracle Commerce plans to build a wide range of virtual arenas in the Forest of Chaos. In the future, there will be large amounts of competitions with large prizes. I believe that the virtual arena will become one of the most popular entertainment projects in Miracle City and the Forest of Chaos. After the spiritual network is built in the future, people from all over the world will be able to participate in the competitions held by Miracle Commerce, creating millions of professional competitions. Everyone, please wait and see. Everyone was instantly stirred. This was just too crazy. There were no entertainment projects in this era. If the virtual arena was promoted on a large scale, they could create virtual spectator seats or connect image transfer mirrors to live broadcast. This would become a kind of entertainment project for the masses. This was a very popular thing in a martial world. Not only would it bring in large amounts of professional competitors of different cultivation realms, it would also bring in the gambling industry. Everyone enter in a line, don't be chaotic and listen to the staff. The forest warriors excitedly entered the arena. The virtual arena was no different from a normal arena, being divided into several large areas. There was a field in the middle of each area, and it was surrounded by layers of terraced stands. However, everyone found a problem. There was a giant crystal embedded in the center of the arena. With this crystal releasing spiritual energy as the center, there was a very large source energy array covering the entire field. In the corners of the field, there were giant energy pillars, and everyone could feel the energy fluctuations coming from under their feet. Everyone sit down. The virtual arena is about to open. Everyone relax and don't resist, this is completely harmless. After several thousand people filled the field, the energy pillars all around began to glow and the source energy array symbols lit up, finally connecting to the giant spiritual attributed crystal in the center. Almost in the next instant, spiritual energy was released, instantly covering everyone sitting in the large source energy array. The forest warriors were slightly stunned. When the forest warriors came back to their senses, they were shocked to find that they had appeared in a completely new place. None of their companions were missing, they had all been moved here. A grand arena appeared in front of them. The area here was more than 10 times larger than before and it was very dazzling. This group of country bumpkins had their eyes opened wide. This was too incredible. Coming to Miracle City this time was really worth it. Even if they couldn't join the army, seeing this kind of scene was worth it. Chapter 439. Chu Tian, tell me. Meng Yingying sat in the arena's lounge, her two slender and beautiful legs crossed. She first looked at the forest aborigines lining up in the lower hall, then looked at the several mirrors that were playing the battle scenes on the wall. Her delicate and beautiful face was not without pride as she said, "How is our virtual arena doing?" This was the first spiritual domain result of Meng Yingying's cooperation with the flower fairies. It could create a completely harmless spiritual space, allowing people to maintain the same abilities in the illusion as in the real world. Therefore, it was impossible to cause actual damage when fighting in the virtual arena. The most important thing was that Meng Yingying had completed the live broadcast of the virtual arena in the real world. Because the virtual arena used source energy arrays and crystals to create illusions, the illusions could be transmitted to the real world through several methods. Then it could be transmitted to a video player or a normal image transferring mirror, so people in the real world could see the battles in the virtual arena. After the spiritual network was established, people from all over the world could compete in the virtual arena. This kind of battle would not result in casualties or enmity, nor would it cause severe damage because of the battle. Those who pursued the path of martial arts could directly observe the duel of experts and comprehend it. Ordinary people could also directly appreciate this kind of unreserved duel and experience the art of combat. This would inevitably become a trend that people would chase after, and there was a large business potential hidden in it. When the virtual arena became popular in the future, even if it was just a small fee, it would be enough to make a large profit. Nangong Yun was even more whimsical. She wanted to open a casino, she wanted to hold competitions, and she wanted to turn the virtual arena into a culture. Nangong Yun was a very combative person. This kind of virtual arena was simply the best place for her to relax. She imagined that whether it was for combative people, gamblers, or ordinary people, the virtual arena would have a broad market. Meng Qingwu also expressed her support for this proposal. Chu Tian deliberately poured cold water on her. "You're satisfied with this? I'm telling you, with this virtual arena of yours, I can find at least a dozen flaws." "Impossible." Meng Yingying's almond-shaped eyes immediately widened, and then she felt a little guilty. "You? Tell me about it." Chu Tian took a sip of tea and said, "I've already noticed that the time in the virtual Colosseum is half that of the real world, so what we're seeing in the real world isn't a live broadcast at all. When the battle in the virtual Colosseum is over, the broadcast outside is only halfway through. Am I right?" "Stupid, stupid, stupid." Meng Yingying was worried that Chu Tian would really ask a question that would hit the nail on the head. She didn't expect him to be so mediocre after all. She said arrogantly, "You should change your brain, you idiot. This is called business acumen, understand? This girl actually dares to lecture me." It had been too long since he had spanked her, and she was getting bolder and bolder. She could still talk about other things, but how could she talk about Chu Tian with her brain? Meng Yingying said, "The virtual coliseum relies on tickets to make money. If the outside world and the virtual coliseum are both being broadcasted at the same time, who would buy tickets to go watch in the virtual coliseum? Moreover, slowing down the virtual coliseum will allow more matches to be held. Saving time is money. The flower fairies have studied it with me. Although the spiritual world's time can be adjusted to a tenth of the real world's time, that kind of situation requires people with strong spiritual energy to be able to adapt. After trying it out, we found that normal people can withstand half the flow of time. In order to adapt to the masses, we decided to design the virtual coliseum like this." "Boss, I also want to talk to you. Why haven't you improved at all?" Nangong Yun also began to criticize Chu Tian. "Me and Yingying have followed elder sister Qingwu for so long, we've already begun to understand the way of doing business. Chu Tian never would have thought that with his outstanding reputation and intelligence, he would actually be left speechless by a stupid girl like Yingying. Even Nangong Yun, his loyal follower, was looking down on him. This was truly a large stain on his life. This was just testing you. I wanted to see if you could create this kind of effect by chance. It seems like you're still sloppy, but what I really want to spend is not this." Alright, you don't need to say any more." Meng Yingying had finally teased Chu Tian. She didn't want to be pulled back by Chu Tian. She immediately said, "Miracle City's popularity isn't enough and we can't make money fast enough. Shouldn't we help elder sister a bit? Let her have less of a headache." "You actually have this kind of heart? Tell me what you want to do. We can do this." Meng Yingying immediately whispered into Chu Tian's ear. Chu Tian nodded when he heard this. Although there were many ways to make money, this kind of method was a bit interesting. There were a large number of forest locals that came to Miracle City's recruitment. This was because Miracle City was completely open to the surrounding tribes during the recruitment period. Even if the forest locals had a wait-and-see attitude and didn't participate, they would at least pay attention to it. Most of them came to Miracle City to join in on the fun. Because of the attention brought by the recruitment, the arena would definitely become famous in the forest. This would be a very good boost to the company's popularity. There were some forest tribe chiefs and high-level members that came because they had people joining the army, so they naturally came to take a look. Recently, they had been hearing about how magical the virtual arena was every day. This made their hearts itch, wishing they could go in and test their skills. But it was a pity. The arena was not open right now. It was impossible for these people to join the army, so they could only suppress their curiosity and ask about the situation of the arena every day. But when they were bored, Miracle City released another piece of news. Miracle City was after the arena. Now they had opened another trial field. This trial field was different from the arena. The trial field was divided into 10 checkpoints, and each checkpoint would present an extremely difficult challenge. Miracle Commerce had set up very generous prizes. It said that whoever could break through to the 5th stage would be rewarded with 100 low-grade source stones, whoever could break through to the 8th stage would be rewarded with 1,000 low-grade source stones, and whoever could break through to the 10th stage would be rewarded with 10,000 low-grade source stones. Other than the generous source stone rewards, each stage would have a random gift. They were all top products of Miracle Commerce or unexpected surprises. They couldn't be missed. Of course, the trial field wasn't free. Each challenge required 2 source stones, and one had to be at least in the true spirit realm to have the qualifications to challenge. This was simply made for the forest experts. Recently, These people's hearts had been itched by Miracle City's arena. Now that there was another trial field, how could they miss it? Wasn't it just 2 source stones? Even if these true spirit experts were poor, they wouldn't be unable to take out a trivial 2 source stones. This news had only been released for a few hours. 7-8 chiefs led 50-60 tribe experts to the trial field. The Minotaur chief Arnold was one of them. He anxiously shouted as soon as he arrived, "How do I play in the trial field? Quickly tell me, I want to earn 10,000 source stones." "Ha, ha, Arnold, with your brain, you still want to earn 10,000 source stones? Let me do it." The reason why these people were filled with confidence was because Miracle City's advertisement clearly stated that in the 10 stages of the trial field, the monsters and demon beasts that appeared were not strong. As long as they used the right method, even a first true spirit layer expert could easily pass them. How could these chiefs, who were proud of themselves, not be moved? The weakest among them was in the 3rd true spirit layer. They could earn 10,000 source stones by passing all 10 stages. This kind of temptation was just too big. Meng Yingying stood at the entrance of the trial field and politely said to everyone, "Respected warriors, because the trial field is still being tested, the space isn't that big. It can only hold 10 people at most, so warriors that want to challenge must first pay the fee. I'll go first." Arnold took out 2 primeval stones and gave them to Meng Yingying, who was collecting the money. His 2 large nostrils breathed out roughly as he looked at the other chiefs with a face full of anger. "Just wait and see, I will definitely succeed." When Arnold entered the trial field, he immediately appeared in an illusion. This was a small hall. After a few minutes, there were sharp howls in his ears as a large group of ghosts appeared in the hall. These ghosts did not have a strong aura, only being in the 6th to 7th awakened soul layer. Arnold laughed. This kind of trash wanted to deal with Father? This money was a bit too easy to earn. Arnold raised his massive axe and condensed energy on the axe's edge. In an instant, the specter's corporeal body was destroyed. Then a second, a third, a fourth. Although there were many specters, these monsters were not very powerful. Arnold used 10 minutes to completely destroy them. When Arnold thought he could easily pass the stage, he was suddenly surprised to find that the ghosts he cut apart gathered together again. There wasn't a single one missing. What is going on? Arnold stared with wide eyes, not understanding why this kind of situation had occurred. However, the Minotaurs would not use their brains to solve things that they could use their muscles to solve. He wildly charged around and finally killed all of the specters. Countless fragments gathered again. The ghosts all recovered. Damn, could he have been tricked? This was simply a dead end. How could he pass it? When Arnold killed all the ghosts for the 3rd time, he felt like he had used up most of his strength. But what made him feel despair was that the ghosts gathered together again. This time, Arnold did not have the strength to kill them all. When Arnold calmed down and observed, he finally found something fishy. The statues in this palace all had some kind of formation supporting them. It was this power that allowed the specters to revive. If Arnold had found a way to destroy the statues from the start, he could have easily killed all the specters. Damn it! Why am I so stupid? I didn't even notice such an obvious mechanism. Arnold did not have any strength left. Countless ghosts charged over and instantly tore him to pieces. Arnold also returned to the trial field. The other chiefs looked at each other in blank dismay. He came out after going in for 2 minutes? The trial field is different from the arena. The time in the trial field is 1/20th of the outside world, so Chief Arnold has already spent 40 minutes inside. Nangong Yun walked over with a smile. But Chief Arnold, you haven't even passed a single stage, so you can only obtain a consolation prize. 5 large cans of level 2 meat. After saying this, a gnome brought 5 large cans of meat in front of him. Ha ha ha! Arnold, you haven't even passed a single stage. These people immediately began to unscrupulously laugh at him. Arnold's bull face immediately turned red. He angrily argued, "Fuck, I was just careless. I want to play again." Arnold once again entered the trial space. In the end, Arnold came out in less than 30 seconds. Arnold's bull face twitched a few times. Damn, the statues can't be blindly destroyed. They have a certain pattern and have to be destroyed in order. Come again, come again. This Minotaur chief was clearly losing impatiently. He entered the trial space again and again, but most of the time, he didn't even last 2 minutes before leaving. This repeated over and over again. He had played a dozen rounds and used up more than 30 low-grade source stones. "I've definitely found the pattern," Arnold excitedly gasped for breath. Although he had lost over 30 source stones, instantly spending all of his savings, he didn't feel any heartache at all. Rather, it was like he was looking for a great joy. "I've spent all of my source stones, who can lend me a few to use? This time I will definitely pass, there will be no problems." Meng Yingying and Nangong Yun were collecting money on the side. The trial field was not as big as the arena, so it could only hold 10 people at a time. However, it was good that time passed in the trial field, so it only took a few minutes to finish a round. These true spirit cultivators' spiritual energy were not weak, so they wouldn't be tired even if they played for several hours. Meng Yingying secretly nudged Nangong Yun beside her. "How much did we earn?" "She'll be quiet." Nangong Yun sneakily winked at her. "Chief Arnold is 32, Chief Andre is 28, and Great Warrior Luca is 24. In total, it should be around 300. Meng Yingying almost laughed out in happiness. This was just too easy to earn. It had only been half an hour and there were still many people lining up outside, with more and more people appearing. Meng Yingying even found the figures of gnomes and druids. These people seemed like they were all curious and came to challenge. If the trial field was in operation for a day, just how many source stones would they earn? These idiots, didn't they use their brains to think? How could Chu Tian's questions be that easy to solve? Moreover, this fellow Chu Tian was very sly. Just like Arnold, although he failed every time, he would always find a way to solve it, so he kept trying. Want to earn 10,000 source stones? Dream on. The first trial was like this. It would be strange if he didn't lose his underwear. Chapter 440. This time, the virtual trial field was Meng Yingying and Nangong Yun's idea. They had found inspiration in the Central State Tower of Trials. However, the difference between the Tower of Trials and the Tower of Trials was that although the Tower of Trials was not as dangerous, there was still the possibility of death. This was an unavoidable matter because no matter how perfect the safety measures were, they could not completely avoid being injured in battle. Miracle City's virtual trial field was not the same. It was a pure spiritual illusion, so it was completely harmless. Not to mention the fact that it was cheap to build and the miracle commerce could mass-produce it, turning it into a challenge for everyone. It would turn the trial field into an entertainment field for experts. This was its charm. This temporary trial field was just like the advertisement said. As long as the challenger found the correct method, it was more than enough for the first true spirit layer to pass all the stages. The problem were the stages that Chu Tian made easy for people to pass? There were a total of 10 stages. The first stage had several dozen random scenes. The challenger would trigger one of them every day. Now that Chief Arnold was here, the 10 challengers were experiencing a different environment. If they challenged it the next day, there would be another random scene. After Arnold knew the rules of the game, he was even more anxious to pass the first stage. Therefore, he borrowed several source stones from his clansmen to challenge it several times. Almost all of the wrong ideas were tried, and finally, Arnold found the only correct idea. Arnold entered the trial field. He immediately followed the lessons learned from his previous failures and used the correct order to shatter the stone statues one by one. Then, he killed the large group of ghosts. This time, it was as expected. The spirits did not revive again. He finally passed the first stage. Success! I succeeded! Arnold roared out in joy as he looked at the door of light in front of the main hall. He knew that this was the path to the second stage. Arnold calmed his mind and entered the second stage. This was a strange environment. There was nothing around him, like he was in a chaotic void. It was like he was standing on a black mirror. Although there was light reflected, he couldn't see anything. What kind of challenge was this time? Arnold looked left and right in confusion. White ripples appeared on the mirror-like ground in front of him, as if a stone had been thrown into the water. Faint ripples immediately appeared and spread outward. Arnold didn't know what was going on, but he could already smell an unusual aura. He instinctively retreated a bit. At the center of the ripples, a black crystal-like sculpture suddenly appeared. At first, this sculpture was just a mass of constantly changing liquid, but it quickly solidified. Then, all kinds of edges and corners appeared, finally forming an image. When Arnold saw what it looked like, he couldn't help but be shocked. Wasn't that him? This was a mirror image that looked exactly like Arnold. However, Arnold was very clear that this was definitely not an ordinary mirror image, because he could only feel coldness from the other party's eyes. It was an absolutely calm and emotionless gaze. Arnold immediately understood. The second stage of the trial was to defeat himself. Interesting. Arnold had fought with countless forest experts, but he had never fought with himself before. He never thought that he would be able to experience the feeling of fighting with himself here. He immediately released a low roar as he released his strength, instantly turning into a shockwave that charged at the other side. The Minotaurs most commonly used charge. The Minotaurs used their powerful bodies and spirit energy to charge at the opponent, breaking down their defenses. Although it was a direct attack without any technique, there was no need to doubt its destructive power. The mirror image seemed to have expected that it would encounter this kind of attack, and immediately dodged sideways, sending out an axe light that directly swept away Arnold. Arnold was shocked to find a terrifying problem. This mirror image was not just like him, it had a deep understanding of him. Whether it was strength, cultivation technique, or martial skills, they were all the same. But the two of them had a deep understanding of him. Compared to Arnold, the mirror image was much calmer. Therefore, it could find Arnold's flaws and launch the most effective attack. Too powerful. Arnold already understood the meaning of the trial. The goal of the second trial was to defeat his strongest self. This meant that he couldn't make any breakthroughs in battle. If he faced his strongest self, he wouldn't have any chance of winning. Only by breaking through his limits could he defeat the mirror image in front of him. This was an excellent opportunity to stimulate his limits and learn more about himself. Good. Very good. Arnold excitedly roared out as his fighting spirit became more and more intense. Father doesn't believe it. Could it be that I can't even defeat myself? In the end, Arnold clashed with the mirror image 4 or 5 times, and the mirror image instantly found an opening. Its large axe directly split Arnold in half, causing Arnold to disappear from the second stage. Arnold had no choice but to believe it. The mirror image knew all of Arnold's weaknesses, and the mirror image was very calm. If Arnold could not overcome his weaknesses, they would become fatal flaws. No matter what. In the end, Arnold managed to survive. The others immediately asked Arnold about the second trial. When they found out that the person they were fighting in the second trial was them, everyone had looks of shock on their faces. Congratulations, Chief Arnold. Meng Ying was worried that if no one passed for too long, it would affect these people's confidence. Now that Chief Arnold had smoothly passed, she could let out a sigh of relief. You have passed the first round and have obtained a chance to draw a lottery. Please immediately participate in the lottery. Nangong Yun sent over a large lottery wheel. The others came over to take a look out of curiosity. This was because they could vaguely feel that although the trial field was interesting, the difficulty was higher than they imagined. How could passing all 10 trials be easy? The reward of 10,000 spirit stones was probably not easy to obtain, but when they saw the lottery wheel, their spirits were roused. This wheel was divided into several areas, and there were source stones rewards. There were 10, 50, and 100 source stones rewards, as well as many other things. Of course, these things were things that most of the locals had never seen before. Arnold poured his spirit energy into the wheel. The needle on the large wheel began to spin. Arnold's eyes widened as he kept repeating, 100 primeval stones, 100 primeval stones, 100 primeval stones. If he could get 100 primeval stones, then not only would he not lose this challenge, he would even earn half of it. The locals of the Forest of Chaos, although they were very strong, because of their primitive society, they did not have a mature business or economic model. Therefore, most of the locals were very poor. Even in a small country like southern Xia, the three great clans could easily take out 100 source stones worth of gold coins at their peak. But as a tribe in the depths of the Forest of Chaos, Arnold's Minotaur tribe had several dozen true spirit experts. Even as a chief, he was only worth this much. Therefore, 100 source stones was not a small sum for Chief Arnold. The needle on the wheel reached the 100 source stones area, and when it was about to stop, it suddenly moved a bit and landed on the next area. Everyone gave a sigh. Arnold roared out in anger. "You've drawn Miracle Commerce's source energy cannon." Meng Yingying shouted in a very surprised voice, "Congratulations to Chief Arnold." Arnold was a bit stunned. "What? Cannon? What cannon?" Miracle Commerce's prizes were mostly high-tech products made by the company. The might of the source energy cannons was very terrifying. If each source energy cannon was sold to a rich kingdom, it wouldn't be a problem for a source energy cannon to be sold for several dozen source stones. Not to mention that Miracle Commerce was limited by materials and refining technology. The current production of the source energy cannons was not high, and they had never sold this kind of weapon to the outside. The so-called rare things were expensive, so the price of the source energy cannon in the Forest of Chaos would be several times higher. Chief Arnold's luck really isn't bad. Meng Yingying seized this chance to advertise Miracle Commerce's weapon. The source energy cannon is a source energy weapon invented by Miracle Commerce. It has a very long range and is very strong. A single shot can destroy half a mountain, and even an earth spirit cultivator would be shattered by a single shot. It's really this strong? Of course. On the entire continent, only our Miracle Commerce has the source energy weapon technology. Meng Yingying said to Arnold, "The source energy cannon is not for sale right now. Chief Arnold can auction it here. I think there will be many people interested in this weapon." Nangong Yun had already brought out the source energy cannon. This cannon was much more refined than when it was first made, and it was a bit smaller, but its might was even stronger. Everyone could feel the energy fluctuations coming from it, and the incomparably complex source energy array patterns dazzled everyone's eyes. Artillery shells. Of course, they had to buy them separately. Miracle Commerce was using this chance to promote their firearms. This firearms trade would be one of Miracle Commerce's most important sources of income. Good thing. "Arnold, I'll give 50 pieces. Sell it to us, I'll give 70 pieces. Arnold didn't want to sell it at first because he could see that this thing had shocking might. If it was placed in the Minotaur Valley, it would increase the defenses of the Minotaur Valley by a large amount. But as the bids became higher and higher, Arnold was moved in the end. He sold it to a forest merchant for 120 low-grade primeval stones. Arnold never would have thought that not only would he not suffer a loss, he would even earn back the cost, even earning double the amount of source stones. This was not just a matter of reward, it was also a matter of dignity and face. Arnold was the only one of the challengers to pass the test. This trial field is too fun. Interesting, it's a bit interesting. Arnold put the source stones in his pocket and said with a laugh, "But I'm tired from playing today, I'll go back and sleep before continuing." because time flowed very slowly in the trial field, this kind of spiritual illusion could easily cause fatigue. Arnold had only played for an hour on the surface, but his mind had been fighting for close to 20 hours. The continuous mental fatigue stacked on top of each other, and even a minotaur like Arnold felt a bit tired. Arnold had picked up a large bargain. The others couldn't sit still again. When they found out about the second trial, everyone felt like their hearts were being scratched by a cat. The trial field's business was very good from start to finish. After an entire day, there were more and more people lining up. The trial field was never empty from start to finish. Nangong Yun and Meng Yingying's hands were almost sore from collecting money. Chapter 441. Meng Yingying and Nangong Yun happily handed over their spoils to Chu Tian. It was a large bag of source stones, and the three of them carefully counted it. There was a total of 3,500 low-grade source stones. When this number appeared in front of them, the three of them were still very shocked. Although they had used the conscription to attract many forest experts, it was still too exaggerated to have this kind of result. Chu Tian thought of the rough valuation that Meng Qingwu had done today. Miracle Commerce's total assets converted into source stones was less than 200,000 low-grade source stones. As for the money in the warehouse, it was around 30–40,000 low-grade source stones. Miracle Commerce had been established for over a year. This was all their harvest. Although Meng Qingwu and Chu Tian were a bit dissatisfied, this was not a small number for any power or family. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu had started from scratch, and they had started from scratch in a small country. Being able to do this in a year was a matter to be proud of. Looking at it now, it really was too little. They had built a small trial field together, and they had earned a large income of 10% of Miracle Commerce's cash in a single day. This also showed the huge commercial potential of the virtual spiritual technology. This was definitely a good thing to make quick money with. Meng Yingying said in a very emotional voice, "You don't know since you weren't there, but those locals were too crazy. Don't look at how poor they are normally, it was like they picked up money from the ground. Those fellows that didn't get a chance to line up almost started fighting with each other. I'm very puzzled, is it really that fun? The Forest of Chaos is rich in resources and the locals do not lack cultivation resources. The environment here is very closed and there aren't any foreign goods, so there aren't many places to spend money. Source stones are not omnipotent in the Forest of Chaos, so their desire for source stones is not like the outside world." Chu Tian thought about it and said, "Of course, the main reason is because their lives are too boring and empty. It was hard to find a place to have fun, and although we know that it is hard to earn money from the trial field, we still couldn't resist the itch to try it out." "Who cares?" Nangong Yun excitedly said. "Excluding the cost of operating the spiritual space and the prizes for them, we can earn at least 3,000. 10 days is 30,000. We'll first slaughter these fellows and solve Miracle City's financial crisis. We have to cast a long line to catch a big fish. It's not enough to just focus on these people. We have to make a name for ourselves and attract more people." Chu Tian shook his head. "This trial field is too simple. It won't take more than 10 days to half a month for people to get bored with it. At that time, the profits will naturally drop. Since we want to ruthlessly slaughter these guys, we need to create better and better attractions." Meng Yingying asked, "What do you want to do?" "Simple," Chu Tian chuckled. "Let's make a bigger, more fun, and more interesting trial field." In the next few days, on one side was the fiery recruitment and on the other side was the virtual trial field's popularity. There were some shaman priests and green religion priests that came to line up. Everyone gathered together to discuss strategies and how to deal with their own mirror images, but most of them were complaining that the trial field was too small, making them line up for a long time without being able to play a single round. Just as the people were waiting in line and feeling very annoyed, someone suddenly said, "Hey, do you know? I've heard the latest news. The City Lord has brought people to create a new trial field, and the trial content here will be moved over. At that time, even if 1,000 people start at the same time, it will be more than enough. Really? Arnold and the others revealed looks of joy. If there really was a trial field that could hold 1,000 people, would they still need to line up like this? I've also heard of it. The new trial field is different from this one. Not only will it have individual challenges, it will also have group challenges. We will be able to enter the trial with our clansmen, and the prizes will be even better. Everyone's bodies trembled. What? There's actually this kind of thing. This kind of individual challenge trial was already very interesting. Could it be that there would be group challenges? Everyone began to discuss with each other. As if to confirm everyone's guesses, there was a giant airship with a giant screen floating in the sky. When had the forest natives ever seen this kind of big fellow flying in the sky? All of them were dumbfounded. It was fine if there was an airship floating in the sky, but this airship was not the main point. The main point was the content being advertised. Do you want to challenge the Hell Demon Dragon? Do you want to challenge the Mountain Giant? The Miracle Commerce Trial Field will fulfill your dream of a challenge, allowing you to experience the pleasure and joy of fighting a peak existence. The voice was transmitted through the loudspeaker, and at the same time, various images began to appear on the big screen. It was a world of volcanoes filled with lava, and a huge figure slowly floated up from the huge lava lake. It was a huge dragon, and its black body split open, with flames and heat spewing out. Its entire body was burning in the flames of death, and it let out a monstrous roar of rage. The image suddenly zoomed out at this time. There were large amounts of strange demons appearing in the volcanoes, just like it was the territory of a demon. Suddenly, there was a blood-boiling background music from the speakers. There was a large group of brave warriors descending from the sky. There were ogres, barbarians, and minotaurs, all of them from the forest races. They were all covered in light as they landed in the middle of the monsters. All kinds of beautiful cultivation techniques and martial skills were released, destroying large amounts of monsters as they swept through the area at a shocking speed. Finally, the demon dragon in the lava lake was startled. Hung! The volcanoes all erupted. Countless pillars of flames soared into the sky. In this apocalyptic scene, the demon dragon spread its wings and charged into the sky. The warriors faced the terrifying demon dragon without any fear. They bravely raised their weapons and took on a challenging stance. The battle music became louder and louder, as if it had reached its climax. The moment the warriors fought the demon dragon, the entire scene suddenly stopped. These people were stunned. This advertisement was just too exciting. Which warrior didn't want to challenge this kind of powerful life form? Who didn't want to experience the feeling of challenging their limits? But they only had one life in the real world. No one would do something stupid like sending themselves to death. Moreover, even if they wanted to slay a dragon, the dragon might not care about them. The locals all felt a wave of anger in their chests. They wanted to excitedly shout out and immediately rush to the trial field to experience it. Even if they had to spend more source stones, they had to try it. How many times would they have this kind of chance in their lives? Not to mention that the airship would only cost 5 low-grade source stones each time. Everyone instantly went crazy. They could fight an evil dragon for 5 source stones? Was there anything more pleasurable in this world than this? The only regret now was that the new trial field had not been repaired yet. So before the new trial field was opened, these people could only pass time in this small trial field. Once this virtual spiritual technology was developed, it immediately obtained great success. At the very least, it won the favor of these forest warriors, and large amounts of source stones were destined to flow into their pockets. Chu Tian planned to build a spiritual library in the future to entice the forest scholars. Time flowed very slowly in the spiritual space, so studying in the spiritual library for a month was equivalent to studying in the real world for a year. At that time, not only would the gnome scholars go crazy, but the other forest scholars would also rush to join. Miracle City's people would become more and more lively. This was the beginning. First collect and then release. Miracle City would first gather people, and when it matured, they would be able to develop it. When the spiritual technology matured and the spiritual energy network was built, each tribe and city would be able to build a spiritual library, a trial field, and an arena. The entire forest of chaos would be connected and Miracle City would rule over people's entertainment, lives, and studies. The new trial field will need a few more days to be built. Chu Tian looked at the renovated castle in front of him. This place doesn't need our help anymore, so we'll use this time to do something else. Nangong, help me bring a group of experts over. They have to be at least in the third true spirit layer. What do you need all these experts for? Why are you asking so much? Of course it's useful. But boss, you said that they are experts. Do you think they will come at your beck and call? Stupid. Just tell the people helping this city, Lord, after the new trial field is built, wouldn't it be fine to let them play 10 times for free? Nangong Yun immediately ran over to gather people, and before she even disappeared, she had brought 30-40 forest experts with her. Even if these people weren't chiefs, they were famous warriors in the nearby forest. Normally they were all arrogant, but now they were called over with just a few words from Chu Tian. I want to ask everyone for help, I don't know if... City Lord, don't say any more. An orc jumped out. The City Lord's matter is our matter. That's right. The City Lord has helped us this much, so what does it matter if we help the City Lord with a bit? Chu Tian didn't waste time and found Clark and the gnomes to lead the way, leading these people to ride the elevator underground. That's right, the reason Chu Tian found all these experts wasn't for anything else but the Eye of the Star. The Eye of the Star was the core of the transport tower. The Eye of the Star fragment was also the main material for the transport scroll. The Eye of the Star had a chance to cultivate the Chu Tian immortal body to perfection. Whether it was for the development of the city or to increase his own strength, Chu Tian needed to kill the star elementals and obtain large amounts of Eye of the Star. But the star elementals were too dangerous. After last time's lesson, Chu Tian didn't dare be rash and used several days to prepare. The star elementals were very strong, but they didn't have any intelligence. No matter how strong this fellow was, it wouldn't be a problem for Chu Tian. Chu Tian first made a talisman that could block and weaken elemental perception. Everyone had one on them, and when they needed to use it, the talisman's effect would interfere with the perception of the star elementals. Other than that, Chu Tian also prepared a special bait for the star elementals and an array to restrain the power of the stars. This was a three-way preparation. Now he recruited several dozen experts. What did these star elementals count for? After Chu Tian cleared out the star elementals, not only would he be able to buy several dozen Eye of the Star, he could also start mining this star mine. In the future, he would be able to produce meteor grass and star stones, which would be enough for Chu Tian to train even more powerful soldiers. Chapter 442. Chu Tian threw the small bottle into the center of the source energy array, and a mist-like aura slowly floated out. It condensed and did not scatter as it floated in the air. At this time, a wandering star elemental covered in starlight was immediately attracted over. The star elemental walked into the source energy array and prepared to absorb the aura. The entire source energy array suddenly opened and a kind of energy field covered the star elemental's body, causing its incorporeal body to tremble a few times, as if it was being strongly disturbed. Light flashed in the air, and large amounts of elemental runes continued to form. It was like a piece of iron meeting a magnet as it was attracted to the star elemental's body, falling onto its body. The star elemental didn't have a physical body, so it immediately began to solidify into a liquid state. Its power was quickly suppressed, and it was like a half-frozen jelly. Its originally light and graceful body now became difficult to move. Although it did not have any intelligence, its instincts told it that this was bad. The star elemental continued to struggle to escape. Chu Tian saw that the time was right and immediately made a gesture. Several dozen experts made a move, and after an intense explosion, several large holes appeared on the ground. The star elemental had already been killed, and when its body shattered, it exploded like fireworks. Countless high-purity star crystals scattered everywhere, and there was even a bright eye of the star among them. Meng Yingying and Nangong Yun began to collect the high-purity star crystals on the ground. Their storage bags were already bulging. They had killed a total of 28 star elementals on the way, and Chu Tian had obtained 28 eyes of the star. There were countless high-purity star crystals. The entire process was smoother than expected. The star elementals here had already been mostly killed by Chu Tian. The biggest regret now was that there were too few star elementals. Each eye of the star was a precious resource. It represented a transport tower, large amounts of transport scrolls, and it also represented the perfection realm's starlight immortal body. With these 28 pieces, after deducting the team's internal consumption, they could only build a few dozen transport towers. Of course, Chu Tian should be satisfied. Eye of the Star was equivalent to a level 4 material. Not only was this a level 4 material, it was also a very precious level 4 material. Being able to find this many in a single cave, it was simply dog shit luck. There's only one left. Chu Tian's gaze landed on the core region of the star mineral. Let's work harder. We can call it a day after this. This was the last and strongest star elemental. Although Chu Tian didn't startle it, the aura it emitted was enough to make Chu Tian feel fear. Therefore, when he was hunting the other star elementals, Chu Tian avoided this area as much as possible to not attract its attention. Chu Tian found a suitable spot to plant the array flag. This was a source energy array specially used to restrain the star elementals, and everyone could see its effect. Being able to kill over 20 star elementals without suffering any injuries was all thanks to this array. Once those dangerous astral elementals entered the formation, they were immediately suppressed. They couldn't resist at all and could only wait to be slaughtered. Everyone walked around, activating the talismans that blocked the detection of elemental life forms. Now, it was very difficult for the star elementals to sense their existence. Get ready! Begin. Chu Tian threw a small bottle into the center of the array. The small bottle shattered and released a smoky substance that was sensed by the sleeping star elementals. A thick energy aura came from the cracks in the ground, and large amounts of starlight quickly gathered together. Finally, it surrounded the core of the eye of the star and condensed into a several-foot-tall elemental giant. This fellow was very big. Meng Yingying and Nangong Yun weren't strong enough, so they didn't participate in the battle and just watched from afar. This star elemental was more than double the size of the previous ones, and the energy it condensed was several times that of the other star elementals. Its entire body was covered in a majestic aura. This was simply the Star Elemental King. The Star Elemental King was awakened, and it immediately began to move towards the source energy array. Although the Star Elemental King was very strong, this kind of elemental life form did not have any intelligence. It could only instinctively move closer to something that was clearly a trap, but it couldn't distinguish it at all. It didn't even think as it walked to the center of the source energy array. Activate the array. The 8 gnomes with deep cultivations heard Chu Tian's order and activated the array. The star elemental's body was covered in an intense energy field, and it suddenly trembled several times. Countless runes were attracted to the star elemental's body, and it made its glowing body dim. Even its movements became incomparably slow and difficult. It was sealed. Everyone had killed over 20 star elementals, so they had a basic understanding of the situation. This giant elemental life form had been suppressed, and now was the best time to make a move. Everyone didn't even think as they jumped out to attack. At this moment, the Star Elemental King felt a sense of crisis, and a wave of fluctuation suddenly came from its body. It was actually mixed with a bit of angry spiritual power. Its solidified body suddenly lit up with a strong light, and most of the runes on its body surface evaporated. Chu Tian's expression slightly changed. "Be careful." The Star Elemental King was stronger than they imagined, and it was different from the other star elementals. This fellow already had a bit of consciousness, and although it didn't reach the level of intelligence, it was much higher than the other star elementals that relied on their instincts. After the Star Elemental King broke free of the seal, the suppressed power was released once again. Its body released a buzzing sound as countless starlight connected to each other. It was like a protective barrier that tightly covered its body. The forest experts fiercely attacked the barrier. In the end, the protective shield did not shatter. As the countless starlights collided violently, a strong electromagnetic shock burst forth. The people who had launched the attack were all hit by the rebound force, and all of them were sent flying more than 10 meters away like kites with their strings cut. All of them suffered serious injuries. Such strong fellows. Chu Tian had found forest experts. When several forest experts attacked together, there weren't many people in Miracle City that could block it unscathed. Not to mention that they couldn't break free of the seal, and they were injured while blocking the attack. The forest locals were shocked. Although they knew that the star elementals weren't weak, only now did they realize that these fellows that were easily killed were actually this strong. If it wasn't for Chu Tian using targeted methods to restrain them, perhaps they would be the ones being killed right now. When the Star Elemental King sent everyone flying, the runes that covered its body were destroyed one by one. Everyone could clearly feel that with each rune that disappeared, the Star Elemental King's power suddenly increased. If its power was completely released, even if Chu Tian had the advantage in numbers, it would be hard to avoid more than half of them dying. These forest locals hesitated. They didn't know if they should go all out. It wasn't worth it for this kind of opponent. "Don't panic." While Chu Tian was shouting, several talismans were activated in his hands. These were specially prepared for special situations, mainly used to strengthen the binding and seal. When these talismans were activated, they turned into energy that entered the source energy array under his feet. Light came from the edge of the source energy array and wrapped around the Star Elemental King in the center like countless threads. The power of the seal doubled. The Star Elemental King couldn't fight back for now. This kind of suppression was too short. It could only last 2-3 seconds at most. The star barrier released by the Star Elemental King hadn't been broken. This layer of defense was enough to protect it before it recovered its mobility and strength. Everyone had seen the might of this defense. Although the attacks of several forest experts had weakened the defense a bit, it was still very strong and it couldn't be easily broken. Chu Tian activated the Starlight Immortal Body. He had to make a move in this situation. The demon god's sword source spirit was released. Chu Tian communicated with the netherworld artifact spirit and flames quickly covered his body. His sword art was released to the peak and he took a step forward, turning into 8 clones that released an overbearing sword glow that slammed into the Star Elemental's defensive barrier. A deafening explosion sounded out. Chu Tian's strength couldn't compare to the forest experts working together, but Chu Tian's demon god's sword source spirit had a strong destructive attribute, and the netherworld flame that had evolved many times was the nemesis of defensive cultivation technique. The two attacks caused the Star Elemental King's defense to explode. There was a rebound that was like an avalanche that came crashing down. The flames covering Chu Tian's body were shattered, and a large number of cracks appeared on the starlight protecting his body. He was instantly bounced dozens of feet away and fell to the ground like a cannonball, creating a large pit with a loud bang. A good chance. The demon god's sword source spirit was close to a god-level source spirit. Its destructive power destroyed the star elemental's protective barrier and created a precious opportunity for the others. The others all attacked together and the star elemental king was violently attacked, finally shattering into pieces. Chu Tian, are you alright? Meng Yingying and Nangong Yun helped Chu Tian up. I'm fine. Chu Tian waved his hand. Although his cultivation base wasn't high, he still had the large success immortal body, so this rebound wouldn't be fatal. Collect the spoils of war. The star elemental king was truly worthy of being the strongest star elemental. There were 4-5 times more high-purity star crystals than before and the quality of the eye of the star was also a level higher. This kind of eye of the star could kill several of them. This area is basically safe because the ferocious astral elementals have always occupied this area. Other crypt monsters have not been active nearby. We can build this area into the Devil's Mouth's outpost to prepare for future exploration of the deeper underworld. Chu Tian said to Clark. Other than that, the resources here are very important to Miracle City's future development, so quickly gather people to arrange the defenses. When Chu Tian finished his task and was prepared to leave, Nangong Yun suddenly said, "There seems to be something here." After the Star Elemental King was destroyed, other than the large amount of star crystal fragments and the Eye of the Star, there were still some other things left. Chapter 443. Chu Tian followed Nangong Yun's direction and saw that where the Star Elemental King was killed, there was a glowing liquid substance. This thing looked like mercury and it was hard to find in this environment if one didn't look carefully. So it's star marrow. This is a very rare recovery, sacred medicine. It's just a sacred medicine? Nangong Yun thought she had found some treasure. There were many sacred medicines in Miracle Commerce's warehouse, and there were even several immortal medicines. She was a bit disappointed. Damn, this old lady thought it was some treasure. Your way of thinking is wrong. Isn't a sacred medicine still a medicine? Chu Tian filled a small bottle with the star marrow, not to mention sacred medicines are divided into levels. Star marrow is a rare level 4 sacred medicine, and because it is very gentle, although it is a level 4 sacred medicine, low-level cultivators can still take it. This kind of treasure is rare, so it will be very useful when we bring it back. The star marrow could be considered an unexpected harvest. Chu Tian returned to Miracle City to properly reward the locals who helped him. He gave them a small reward before dispersing them. These locals didn't care about the reward. Being able to experience the new trial field for free was enough to satisfy them. Now they only hoped for the new trial field to open as soon as possible. At this moment, the City Lord's office, the young Miss and Vivian, the two Vice City Lords, were currently busy with official business. The young Miss was very familiar with this, handling heavy tasks as if they were light. She calmly raised her pen like the wind, instantly taking care of a large amount of matters. Vivian was sitting on the side with a pen in her mouth, constantly scratching her head. Looking at the dense pile of documents, her head was spinning and she couldn't find her direction. Vivian was a bit like Meng Yingying and a bit like Nangong Yun. Her personality was in between the two, being obedient and serious like Yingying, but also lively and mischievous. Perhaps it was because they were similar that these three girls had already become sisters. Nangong Yun was still the big sister, Meng Yingying was still the second sister, and the oldest Vivian had become the youngest sister. If Vivian's age was changed to a human 14-year-old, this wasn't wrong. In short, these three girls were together all day and their relationship could be said to be very good. But whether it was Yingying or Nangong Yun, Vivian wasn't cut out to be the city lord. Royal father is abominable. They actually arranged for me to be Miracle City's vice city lord. When Vivian heard that Nangong and Yingying had gone out to play with Chu Tian, it made her heart itch and she didn't have the mood to do anything. Sister, Vivian, we're back. Meng Yingying rushed in excitedly. You won't be able to guess what we brought back. It will definitely give you a big shock. When Vivian heard Ying's voice, she became spirited and stood up. What good thing? Let me take a look. Meng Qingwu, on the other hand, frowned slightly. This is the mayor's office. How can you be so rash? Before she could finish her words, Meng Ying poured out all the star crystals she had harvested in one breath, and the star crystals immediately piled up into a small hill. Vivian and Meng Qingwu's eyes were glued to the crystals. The purity and energy contained in these crystals were very high. They were definitely of the highest quality. They all cultivated the starlight immortal body. Of course they knew how precious this thing was. This. Meng Qingwu was very surprised. How did you get so many star crystals? You still don't know. Nangong Yun was in high spirits. She gestured with her hands and said, Boss brought us on an adventure. It turns out that there is a huge underground world under the city. We can go deeper into it through the Devil's Maw. There are ugly monsters everywhere, for example those evil eyes that can shoot light beams. It's said that evil eyes are one of the lowest level monsters. Our lives won't be boring in the future, so we should quickly use the star crystals to increase our strength and go on an adventure. I really want to see just how many strange monsters there are inside. Vivian's eyes lit up. Was this true? She was a very curious person. She definitely wouldn't be able to sit still as the city lord. She liked to go on adventures, and if Miracle City had this kind of place, her life wouldn't be boring in the future. Young miss, don't be so busy and obediently go cultivate. Chu Tian didn't waste time with Meng Qingwu. Leave Miracle City's matters to me for now. After Chu Tian left the small town, everyone's cultivation quickly increased. The Forest of Chaos couldn't compare to Southern Xia. There were too many resources here. There were all kinds of elixirs and sacred herbs, and they were all very cheap. Before Chu Tian left, he gave everyone a customized cultivation plan. With this many resources and the help of the flower fairies, their cultivation increased by quite a bit. Chen Bingyu and Dongfang Haoren were already in the peak first true spirit layer. Meng Qingwu, Meng Ying, Nangong Yun, and the others were all in the peak ninth awakened soul layer. This batch of star crystals came at the right time. Everyone used this chance to break through their bottlenecks, and their strength would increase explosively. After the high-level members of Miracle Commerce were all in the true spirit realm, it would be easier for them to stabilize their current positions. Meng Qingwu was also very happy and excited. Who didn't want to become a bit stronger? There have been too many things in the city recently. Meng Qingwu thought of something and said a very important matter. The Prophet Yoda's injuries are very serious. The shamans have already submitted to Miracle Commerce. The gnomes are convinced by us, and the surrounding locals are harmonious. Only the druids are a variable. I'm worried that something will happen to the Prophet. This power will fall into chaos because of this. They are not a small power. The green religion, the undead religion, the shaman religion, and the druid religion, these were the main powers in this area. Compared to the other three, the druids were more low-key and aloof, but they still had quite a bit of influence. The druids' abilities are very interesting. If they can become a part of Miracle City, it will be very beneficial. Meng Qingwu knit her brows. I want to know how to help them. You must have a way, right? Young miss can be assured. Chu Tian said to Vivian beside him. I'll bring Vivian over. This small problem will be easily solved. That's right. Vivian didn't want to sit in the office for a long time. Elder sister can be assured of going into closed-door cultivation. There's still us. Chu Tian cut in. The young miss is too weak. I am the respected Miracle City's Vice City Lord. How could my trivial awakened soul realm cultivation be enough? This is too outrageous. Meng Qingwu snappily said, Then we've really lost face for Sir City Lord. It's fine, it's fine. Chu Tian said with a giggle. This city lord has always been very lenient with beauties. If Meng Qingwu's strength reached the true spirit realm, her heavenly book source spirit would be even stronger and her work and learning efficiency would increase by a large amount. The so-called sharpening the knife would not delay chopping wood, so no matter how busy she was, she had to increase her strength first. Alright then, this is the draft plan completed in the last few days. Meng Qingwu placed a thick notebook on the table. We've analyzed some of Miracle City's flaws and areas that need to be improved. Other than that, we've made a preliminary plan for the city. What do you think? I'm very assured with the young miss handling it. Chu Tian was too lazy to even look at it as he threw it to the side, then give it out and immediately implement it. Meng Qingwu was speechless. When would this fellow stop being so carefree? Miracle City was Miracle Commerce's future headquarters, and this fellow actually had an indifferent attitude. She was truly defeated by him. Although she was very dissatisfied with Chu Tian's sloppy appearance, Meng Qingwu could feel his trust in her, which made her feel a bit satisfied. Meng Qingwu brought Ying, Nangong, and the others into closed-door cultivation. Chu Tian needed to solve the druid problem, so he ran to the alchemy room to refine several star marrow pills. It was hard for Chu Tian to process level 4 materials with his current strength, because level 4 alchemy arrays couldn't be used by true spirit cultivators, and level 4 and below alchemy arrays couldn't refine level 4 materials. But the star marrow was very gentle, so it could be used without any refining. Chu Tian could completely merge the star marrow with level 3 materials. He could make several star marrow pills like this, and their effects wouldn't lose to level 4 recovery sacred pills. Chu Tian took one first, and the star marrow pill's effects filled his body, immediately showing its effects. The side effects from the battle with the lich quickly healed. The hidden injuries that would have taken a few days to heal were instantly healed. The star marrow pill's effects were not just simple recovery. This pill could deeply improve the body, and no matter how old the hidden injuries were, it would have a strong effect on clearing them. It could also greatly increase one's physique. This was a good thing that couldn't be bought with money. Vivian, let's go. We'll go to the Druid Temple. Alright. Vivian directly used her spatial energy and instantly brought Chu Tian to the Druid Temple. This spatial energy was hard to defend against, and the two of them appeared in front of the Druid Temple's doors. Who is it? The Druids quickly came over. Everyone, don't misunderstand. I am the City Lord, Chu Tian. Chu Tian raised a pill high up. This City Lord knows that Great Master Yoda's injuries have not been healed, so I took the risk of entering the underground world and killed 18 fierce beasts. I collected 8 immortal herbs and refined them into an immortal pill with an ancient recipe. This pill will definitely cure Prophet Yoda's illness, so please bring me to see Prophet Yoda. The Druids looked at each other in blank dismay. Was there really such a magical pill? But the Druids still believed in Chu Tian's abilities. This was because when Chu Tian fought the Lich Dragon, many Druids had personally seen it. After the battle, Prophet Yoda was brought back with heavy injuries and was in a near-death state. It was Chu Tian who found a way to temporarily prolong his life. Chu Tian wrote several recipes to treat Yoda's illness. Who would have thought that Yoda already had hidden injuries, and after the battle with the Lich Dragon, his injuries became even more serious. Now that he had completely erupted, he was at his last gasp and might not be able to hold on. The Druids were very worried because the Prophet was not only the leader of the Druids, he was also the highest spiritual leader. If anything happened to Yoda, the Druids would be heavily affected. Chu Tian appeared again at this time, saying that he had a top-quality immortal herb. This made the Druids see a glimmer of hope. So it's Sir City Lord, we've been rude. Sir City Lord, please come in. The Druids respectfully invited Chu Tian into the temple. Chapter 444. Vivian knew about the existence of the Druids before she came to Miracle City. It said that the Druids could communicate with nature and had a strange transformation technique, allowing them to turn into any kind of demon beast. From a normal bird or small beast, they could freely change into any kind of demon beast. This transformation was not just a change in form. The Druids' most powerful point was that they could completely duplicate the abilities of the demon beast they turned into. This was something that no cultivation technique could do, so it wasn't strange to say it was an ancient demonic technique. Coming to the Druid temple with Chu Tian this time, Vivian was very curious and immediately looked around. The Druids were not enthusiastic, but they all moved to the side, not daring to show any expressions. After all, Chu Tian was the famous Miracle City's city lord, and the Druids did need his help. On a stone platform in the center of the temple, Prophet Yoda's 1-meter-long body was lying in a source energy array. There were 2 Druid high priests guarding him. This was the legendary Druid prophet that had the ability to predict? Vivian was very puzzled. The legendary wise and powerful prophet, why did Whissen look like a goblin or gnome? This was too different from what she imagined. At this moment, Prophet Yoda's body was covered in wrinkles. He was like a dehydrated frog or a dried tree bark. Although there weren't any obvious wounds on the surface, his vitality was already drying up. Vivian said, "This is serious enough. He won't last more than a few days." These words made the other Druids dissatisfied. One of the Druids said in a worried voice, "The prophet's injuries from the fight with the Lich Dragon have been stabilized by the City Lord's medicine and method. Only this injury has caused the old injuries to erupt, causing the prophet's body to weaken. I'm afraid we won't be able to gather the materials." Chu Tian gave a slight nod. "What are you waiting for?" A Bear Tribe Druid High Priest anxiously shouted. "Since the City Lord has found a way to cure the prophet, then make a move. Can't you see that the High Priest's life is in danger?" "Hey, what are you shouting for? What kind of attitude is this?" As an elf, Vivian hated this kind of cruel spirit beast. Now that she saw this kind of attitude, her heart was very unhappy. "Our big brother Chu Tian coming to help is giving you Druid's face, making it seem like we owe you." The Druid High Priest of the Bear Tribe had a fiery temper and immediately spoke without restraint. "Humph, if it wasn't for the Druids helping to deal with the undead church, would Prophet Yoda's old injuries have relapsed? If it wasn't for the Druids' help, Green City would have already been destroyed. If this human became the City Lord, how could there be any Miracle City? It's not wrong to say that you owe us." "You." Vivian had only said it casually. She did not expect the Druid to be so unreasonable. She was so angry that she almost crushed her cheeks. "If the city is destroyed, how can the Druids be spared? You speak as if the Druids are selfless. Aren't you doing it for yourselves? If Brother Chu Tian didn't kill the Lich, not to mention your prophet, all the Druids who participated in the battle would have died. How are you going to settle this debt?" The eyes of the Bear Tribe's High Priest widened. "Glaring at me? Do you want to fight?" Vivian's personality wasn't as fiery as Nangong Yun's. She wouldn't fight if she wanted to, but other than being obedient in front of Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu, she really wasn't afraid of anyone. So she rolled up her sleeves, revealing her snow-white wrist. "Stupid bears like you, I've beaten more than 10 of them." Seeking death. The Druid High Priest of the Bear Tribe roared. His entire body emitted a dazzling light, and his body instantly expanded by 5 to 6 times. His leather armor burst open, and his mane grew wildly. He was about to turn into a giant beast. Vivian's eyes narrowed. Spatial energy trembled as a dagger floated in the air, emitting a powerful aura. It instantly locked onto the giant beast, as if the dagger would be able to cut it into pieces with just the slightest movement. Space attributed source spirit. The Druids all turned pale with fright. Vivian looked like she was 14 years old, but her cultivation wasn't low. She was in the peak 4th true spirit layer, and she had spatial energy that normal people couldn't defend against. It wasn't hard for her to kill a few high priest druids. The druids were all on guard and they all prepared to make a move. Chu Tian crossed his arms in front of his chest like he was watching a play, but he was muttering in his heart. These druids really were unreasonable. If he didn't properly deal with these fellows who did things their own way, perhaps they would cause trouble for Miracle City in the future. Stop! A druid high priest came forward. This was a rare eagle race spirit beast. He had a pair of giant wings and his feet were like eagle claws. The eagle race was silent, and they were not as violent as the bear people, so he immediately came forward to stop them. The city lord came to save the prophet out of kindness, and you still made a move against them. Do you not care about the druid religion? What did the prophet teach us? If you want to fight, I don't recommend it. Chu Tian slowly said. Only, I think I forgot to introduce you. This is Vivian from the Eternal Forest. She is Miracle City's Vice City Lord, the Eternal Forest's Elven King's youngest daughter, as well as the Eternal Forest's most talented elven wings. These words were like a bolt of lightning hitting the druids. The Elven King's youngest daughter? This elven girl was actually the Elven King's youngest daughter? The Bear People's High Priest was speechless and could only return to his original appearance. Even if the druids were rebellious, would they dare make a move against the Elven King's daughter? Not to mention whether they could win or not, just the Elven King representing the Eternal Forest was not something that any local power could resist. Sorry, the druids were too impulsive this time. The Eagle Race Druid High Priest stared at the Bear People and immediately came in front of Chu Tian and Vivian. As long as we can save Sir Prophet, the druids are willing to pay any price. I hope the city lord doesn't mind. Of course I don't mind. Chu Tian didn't have any temper, but since the druids like to settle accounts this much, then I might as well calculate it. You said that Yoda brought people to help deal with the Lich. I admit this. But, if the skin doesn't exist, where will the hair attach to? The druids didn't make a move just for the city. I also saved Yoda from the Lich Dragon and sent him the medicine as soon as I returned to the city, so the two sides are even on this matter. The Eagle Race Druid High Priest was very embarrassed. Yes, the city lord is right. Then we'll count it another way. Chu Tian took out a star marrow pill. This is to save Grandmaster Yoda. This city lord personally brought people into the underground world, killed 18 fierce beasts, collected 8 kinds of immortal herbs, and refined this pill using an ancient recipe. I think that there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. I won't ask for a high price, so you can buy it for 500,000 source stones. 500,000 source stones? How could the druids have that many source stones? The druids didn't have any source of income. Not to mention 500,000 source stones, they couldn't even take out 50,000 or even 5,000. Chu Tian put away the pill. This city lord has something to do, so I'll be leaving first. When you have enough money, you can come find me. After saying this, Chu Tian looked like he was about to leave. City lord. The druids were all panicking. You can't be this heartless. Heartless? I also want to talk about feelings, but you're talking about benefits with me. Chu Tian shrugged his shoulders. Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but in my eyes, the druids are just a group of petty people who only remember grudges and not kindness. What kind of feelings do I have? I saved Yoda today, but who knows that in a few days you will rebel against me. Rather than taking this kind of risk, I might as well make the first move. The druids broke out in a cold sweat. Chu Tian saying this, it was like he wanted to fall out with the druids. Right now Miracle City was controlled by Chu Tian's family. Not only did he have the gnome's approval, he also had the support of most of the shaman religion and several tribes. If Chu Tian wanted to kill the druids, he definitely had the ability to take advantage of Yoda being heavily injured to eliminate the druids. Vivian, let's go. Vivian released her spatial energy and prepared to leave with Chu Tian. City Lord. Wait. The druids all came over. The Bear Tribe's high priest's expression changed. He knew that he had caused a large disaster. This calm-looking city lord was not an easy person to deal with. I am willing to swear in the name of the Druid God that I will be loyal to Miracle City and not do anything against the Druids. Chu Tian finally raised his hand. He had Vivian stop the spatial transfer. The other druids knew what to do, so they angrily swore that they would never betray Miracle City. The druids swore in the name of their god, so this kind of oath was more trustworthy. This city lord doesn't like killing and fighting. Everyone can live a good life. What's wrong with earning money together? Chu Tian shook his head and said, Prophet Yoda is a wise person. Miracle City needs this kind of wise person. Although you have disappointed me, I am still willing to give you a discount, 100,000 source stones. The druid wanted to cry, Sir City Lord, the druids don't have any wealth. We really can't take this out. Another druid priest said, We can slowly repay the source stones, but the prophet's situation cannot be delayed. You're right. Chu Tian patted his head and took out several scrolls. Then we'll make several spiritual contracts. The 100,000 source stones will be the Druid Temple's debt to Miracle City, and I'll give the Druids 3 years to work for Miracle City. This contract needs all the high priests to sign, and as long as they accept the conditions, I will immediately save the prophet. Perhaps it wasn't a sudden idea. These contracts had been prepared a long time ago. If they had a bit of a brain, they would have realized that they had fallen into the city lord's trap. But did they have a choice? Sign. We'll sign. 100,000 source stones was not a small number, but to save Prophet Yoda, the druids were willing to pay any price. Under the lead of the Bear Tribe's high priest, all the high priests came forward to sign the contract with Chu Tian. Chu Tian revealed a cunning smile like his plan had succeeded. Once you fall into the trap, can you still run? Chapter 445. Since the Druids admitted defeat, Chu Tian did not make it hard for them. He immediately gave the Star Marrow pill to Vivian and had Prophet Yoda take it. The Druids were filled with nervousness. Although they had suffered a large loss, as long as Prophet Yoda was cured, the Druids were willing to pay this price. Wasn't it just owing Miracle City 100,000 source stones? This number was not a small number, but with the work of the several hundred Druid priests in the Druid Temple, they could repay 10 to 20,000 every year, so they could repay it in 4 or 5 years. Vivian's heart was also a bit nervous. The Druids were not easy to deal with. If Chu Tian ruthlessly slaughtered them and didn't achieve the desired effect, the Druids would rebel again and Chu Tian's prestige as the city lord would be greatly reduced. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes passed. After Yoda took the Star Marrow pill, his skinny body slowly recovered a bit of vitality. There was a faint glow of starlight surrounding his body, and it was like rain on a dry land, making his wrinkled skin recover its vitality. It seems like it's effective. The Druids revealed looks of pleasant surprise. This pill seemed mediocre and didn't have any extraordinary abilities, but the effect was so instantaneous. It seemed like the city lord wasn't lying. This was definitely a rare immortal pill. Whether it was the materials used or the method of concoction, they were all impeccable. The prophet is awake. The prophet is awake. The Druids cried out in joy. Yoda had already gradually regained consciousness. Vivian saw the Druids being this happy, and she felt very proud in her heart. Big Brother Chu Tian was truly powerful. This dying person was actually revived by a single pill. Chu Tian nodded in satisfaction. Prophet Yoda, how do you feel? Yoda was the spiritual pillar of the Druid religion. Although the Druid religion had several high priests, just the high priest's power alone couldn't stabilize the religion. Once something happened to Yoda, the Druids would split. It wouldn't just be the Druid religion's problem, but rather the entire Miracle City's problem. Chu Tian didn't want Miracle City's conscription to go wrong. Yoda woke up and was stunned for half a second. He was surprised to find that his body had changed. The injuries from my battle with the Lich Dragon have completely recovered and the old injuries are clearly improving. This is... The Druid was overjoyed. This meant that the prophet would soon be able to recover his full strength. At that time, Yoda would be a peak spirit transformation true spirit expert. Chu Tian had already expected this. If you take the pill I refined, these minor injuries will naturally heal, but you don't need to thank me too much, because this pill was sold to your druid temple, it was just a fair trade. After Yoda understood what was going on, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Actually, with Yoda's wisdom, how could he not guess that Miracle City would make a move against the druids? No matter how magnanimous a ruler was, he wouldn't tolerate a bunch of troublemakers in his territory who didn't listen to him at all. However, Yoda never expected that Chu Tian would actually use this method. 100,000 yuan stones is actually not that much. Chu Tian gave a suggestion. I'm prepared to set up a staff department in Miracle City and have Prophet Yoda be Miracle City's chief staff officer with an annual salary of 10,000 source stones. Are you interested? The druids were infuriated once again. Chu Tian actually wanted the druid's great prophet to be his subordinate. This was simply an insult to the druid religion and the druid god. Yoda was a bit hesitant, he didn't agree or refuse. I want to remind everyone here that the current Miracle City is no longer the Green City of the past. Chu Tian spoke in a calm and dignified manner. The person in charge has changed and the rules have also changed. I respect the druid culture, so I can create an autonomous region in the city. However, within my city, all citizens must follow Miracle City's rules. There are no exceptions and there can be no exceptions. He had already said so much. Could the druids refuse? Chu Tian was also lenient, giving the druids enough freedom. Miracle City would not interfere with the druids' internal affairs, but the druids had to follow Miracle City's rules. With a city lord like you in Miracle City, the Forest of Chaos will have a new world. Yoda said with an emotional sigh, I agree to the city lord's request. I am willing to use my meager wisdom to help Miracle City prosper. The druids were all stunned. The noble and mysterious prophet actually agreed to this kind of request. I believe in Prophet Yoda's promise. From today on, Prophet Yoda will be Miracle City's chief of staff and high-ranking scholar. I believe you will not regret your choice today. Chu Tian took a step back and cupped his hands. Since it's like this city lord will not talk anymore. Prophet Yoda has not fully recovered and needs to rest. I will wait for the prophet's arrival in the city lord's castle. Vivian reached out her hand. The two of them disappeared in a spatial vibration. Sir Prophet, the great druid said with a complicated expression, do we really have to submit to the rule of this human? That's right. We do not need to submit to a human. The druids are free, how could we be controlled by a human? Submit, how could we submit? Yoda sat down on the platform. I can't see Miracle City's future, but I can say with certainty that this city will undergo an earth-shattering change. The druids have been wandering around the forest, and have never had a true home, so I think we should find a stable place to live in. From today on, the druids will not only have to follow Miracle City's rules, they will also have to actively enter the world. The great druid high priests were very shocked. The druids always had a neutral attitude. Unless their lives were threatened, they would not participate in any dispute. Yoda wanted everyone to actively enter the world. This was completely different from the druids' teachings. But the druids never doubted the prophet's words. If Prophet Yoda said this, then it must be reasonable and it would be beneficial to the druids. These great druids never doubted the prophet, not to mention the other druids. Although they were a bit confused, everyone accepted it. Yoda's clear eyes flashed with light before he slowly closed them. Vivian brought Chu Tian to a prairie with a fast-flowing stream and hundreds of flowers blooming. Butterflies flew through the bushes, there were wild deer and rabbits running away, and there were mountains all around that reached into the clouds. How did this look like a city? It was simply a quiet forest park. If they walked forward another 10 miles, they would reach the arena for the recruitment. This kind of city was too spacious and too big, it was almost like a small country. It was enough for humans to build several large cities. Big brother, is that dwarf very strong? Vivian thought about it. When he just woke up, I felt like I didn't have a chance of winning against him. If he recovers his strength, perhaps he would be a spirit transformation expert. Vivian was basically the second strongest expert in Miracle City. At least with the void escaping and the spatial dagger's offensive power, there weren't many Heaven Spirit Realm experts that could fight her, but there was nothing she could do if she met a spirit transformation expert. Miracle City still needs a strong enough person to oversee it, not to mention that Yoda has enough wisdom and knowledge. Whether it is managing the city or participating in the laboratory research, he can become an important person. If you do this and make the druid submit, once Big Sister Meng Qingwu finds out, she will definitely be very happy. The last obstacle in Miracle City had been swept away. From now on, it was time for the city to truly develop. At this time, Chu Tian's communication device rang. It was actually Dolores calling. Chu Tian hadn't seen this coquettish fox girl in several days, and he didn't know where she ran off to. It was said that she was sent out by Meng Qingwu to do something, but it seemed like she had already returned to Miracle City. Let's go to the City Lord's castle. Vivian used her spatial energy without saying anything else. Dolores was in the magnificent hall of the City Lord's castle, playing with the communication device in her hand. Although she didn't know the principle behind it, the thing Chu Tian made was just too easy to use. No matter where the other party was, she could immediately contact them without any hindrance. There was a spatial fluctuation. Vivian brought Chu Tian back here. Chu Tian looked at the travel-worn Dolores. I haven't seen you in so many days, where did you run off to? You're still talking? A respected city lord doesn't even know what his subordinates are doing. Dolores helplessly rolled her eyes at him. I've mobilized over 500 clansmen and have already formed a fox caravan, heading off in different directions to open a trade route for Miracle City. The gnome period. This was basically an isolated city. The gnomes were good at studying, but they weren't good at doing business. The city's income came from the taxes of foreign merchants. Now that the master had changed, Miracle Commerce was a business organization, and there was a vice city lord with a merchant background like Meng Qingwu. Naturally, they would use Miracle City's superior location to do business. It was expected that Meng Qingwu would use the fox people to do this. Chu Tian had also considered this before. The fox people were natural merchants. I came back with a city returning scroll to report some matters. Dolores patted her waist where there were 2 scrolls, but speaking of this thing is really easy to use. Nonsense. Do you know how precious a scroll is now? Miracle Commerce only had a few transport scrolls. Although Chu Tian had obtained a large amount of Eyes of the Star, he didn't have time to make them yet. It seemed like Meng Qingwu had given the remaining scrolls to Dolores so that she could report back to the city at any time. Dolores didn't beat around the bush and directly said, "We have already contacted many powerful tribes, towns, and even cities far away. Almost all of them are very interested in our products. This is a good thing. But we've also encountered a problem." Dolores gave a slight sigh. "I came back to discuss this matter, but the Vice City Lord is in closed-door cultivation. Although I'm very unwilling, I can only discuss it with you." "But you're saying it like I'm very willing." Chu Tian found that something was wrong. He first fought the shaman and then the undead, establishing his prestige and image. The young miss had only been here for a few days, and she had already become the center of everyone's attention. The respected city lord had instead become a decoration. Chapter 446. Chu Tian was depressed, but he didn't care about it with his personality. He was happy to be idle anyway. Dolores's Fox Clan caravan had opened a trade route for Miracle City, and they had already obtained some initial results. They had basically settled in the nearby small towns and were negotiating with the local tribes, even trying to establish contact with other forest cities. "We are preparing to build a large-scale miracle shopping center. Dolores told Chu Tian her idea. The first batch will be placed in over 20 small towns to test it out. We will be working with over 100 tribes this time, selling Miracle City's products and sharing the forest's resources, creating the largest supermarket in the forest. Miracle Shopping Center concept? Meng Qingwu had already mentioned it in southern Xia's South Sky City. The Miracle Shopping Center was a large-scale general merchandise platform and a supermarket built by the company. With Miracle Commerce's products as the main product, it would be clearly priced and sold on the shelves, allowing them to be sold in chains all over the country. This platform would also bring in the products of powerful companies from all over the city, making the shopping center more complete and competitive. Meng Qingwu's idea was very far-sighted, and she indeed had a lot of potential. The only mistake was the Miracle Commerce's development speed. Miracle Commerce's rise from South Sky City to jumping out of southern Xia had only taken a year. There were also canned food, magnetic sound machines, source energy weapons, and other products with great potential. The Miracle Shopping Center's development speed couldn't keep up with the company's development speed, so Miracle Commerce's revenue wasn't that large. Therefore, it was quite useless in southern Xia. Meng Qingwu once again mentioned the concept of the forest supermarket. This wasn't just because Miracle Commerce's position wasn't the same as before, Miracle Commerce itself wasn't the same as before. Miracle Commerce's spatial technology had made large progress over the past few months. The Miracle Shopping Center would change in a way that surpassed people's imaginations, becoming the largest supermarket chain in the forest. The Forest of Chaos was this big and rich in resources. Why were the forest races so poor? Why were there so few merchants from outside the forest that came to do business? The main reason was that the forest environment was too complicated and dangerous. There were ferocious aborigines everywhere, and bandits who blocked the road were everywhere. 90% of the powers in the forest followed the Dark Forest Law and did not dare show themselves. Every time the forest merchants came to the Forest of Chaos to do business, it was a 9 out of 10 gamble. These contradictions affected the development of the Forest of Chaos, and it was because of these contradictions that Meng Qingwu saw a large opportunity. The Miracle Shopping Center could change this situation. The Miracle Shopping Center was no longer the large physical shopping center of South Sky City, rather it was a higher level, more suitable, more convenient, and more flexible existence. It combined the already mature Miracle Commerce communication technology, sound and image transmission, air transportation technology, as well as the beginning, but already beginning to be used space and spiritual technology. Dolores gave an example. We are prepared to open the virtual shopping centers in 20 small towns, using image-transferring mirrors to display products. The important products will be directly tested in spiritual experience stores, and each store will be connected to Miracle City, allowing customers to directly ask questions from a distance. This way, we don't need a large store, and we can have tens of thousands of products. Chu Tian nodded. Sounds good. That's not all. We can use the Miracle Broadcasting Station and the Miracle Television Station to advertise and buy products. For example, we can use the Miracle Shopping Center's hot products, activity products, or the newest products to broadcast or send pictures and videos to various places. It's best if people can buy things without leaving their homes. Vivian was confused hearing this. How will we send things to our customers? This will depend on the spatial technology you're in charge of. Dolores became more excited the more she spoke. Although with Miracle Commerce's current level, we can't open a personal storage warehouse for everyone, but we can collect orders and send them to the various cities and towns. If there is a large order from a tribe, we can use the airship to send it. This way, the risk of encountering us will be almost zero. In doing business in the Forest of Chaos, risk was always number one. This risk mainly came from the outside world, but with Miracle Commerce's method of doing business, not only was it fast and convenient, there was almost no risk at all. Miracle Commerce didn't just sell their own products, they could also sell products from southern Xia. The large tribes chose to cooperate with Miracle Commerce, and they sold their products on the Miracle Shopping Center. Not only could they sell it to the various cities and towns in the forest, they could even sell it to countries outside the Forest of Chaos. When the products were no longer restricted by region, the price would naturally rise and the benefits would be unimaginable. Miracle Commerce's platform would not only create a large amount of value, it would also allow them to take large amounts of resources for themselves. It would also allow the locals of the forest to become rich, allowing the Forest of Chaos to undergo an earth-shattering change. Vivian's blood boiled hearing this. Just like how Vivian thought of the space warehouse when it was built, this was a large benefit to the elves. For example, the elves' tea leaves, artwork, and various treasures. If they were sold locally, they wouldn't be worth much, but if they were sold to the human empires, they could be sold for over 100 times the price. Didn't the elves not like interacting with the outside world? Now they could ship these things to Miracle City and have Miracle City sell them in the shopping center. At worst, they could just split the profits and the elves could obtain benefits they didn't even dare believe before. In the future, the elves could use the Miracle Shopping Center to buy products from all over the continent. As long as they paid the money, these goods would be sent from all over the world to the Eternal Forest, to the secret area where the elves lived, allowing the elves' lives to be greatly improved. Too great. Good, it really is good. Chu Tian rubbed his chin in a puzzled voice. What trouble do you have? Miracle Commerce is still too small right now. We don't have enough manpower to send people to build the shopping center. Moreover, as the shopping center becomes larger and larger, our shopping center team will become larger and larger. In the end, we will become bloated and it will be hard to manage. Dolores said with a sigh, there is another very important thing. Think about it, we've opened such a large market, if we just eat it all by ourselves, wouldn't others be jealous? Vivian knit her brows. Then what do we do? Vice City Lord Meng Qingwu is preparing to find a regional agent. This will solve this problem very well. Dolores said after a pause. The small towns have their own agents, the cities have their own agents, and the countries have their own agents. We'll cooperate with the strongest power in the area and let the locals manage the shopping center. Miracle City will provide technical support and management and we'll split the profit. This way, it will make it easier for the local areas to manage and it will make everyone rich together. The young miss really has a way. If we find an agent like this, it will make it easier for the local areas to manage and it will speed up our development. On the surface it looks like we're giving up some profits, but it will create a more stable win-win situation. Chu Tian nodded. Since it's like this, then we'll do it. Do you think I don't want to? Dolores rolled her eyes. Vice City Lord Meng Qingwu's plan is meticulous, but there are still some oversights and miscalculations. The large tribes and races in the Forest of Chaos are much poorer than she imagined. Although many people are interested, they don't have enough money to participate. No money? What's there to talk about without money? Chu Tian had a look of misfortune. Could it be Miracle Commerce is going to help them build everything? I came back for this goal. Dolores revealed a strange smile. I was thinking like this. Chu Tian and Vivian were both stunned. Dolores was not a stupid person, she should know how big the investment was. They hadn't even seen the profits yet. Could it be that they were going to spend all their money first? She was Miracle City's chief financial officer. She should know that Miracle City's financial situation was not optimistic. I have an idea. We can use this chance to create another platform. If this platform succeeds in the Forest of Chaos and even on the continent, it won't be any worse than the Miracle Shopping Center. Dolores paused. I've even thought of a name for the platform. It'll be called Miracle Bank. Bank? This was Vivian's first time hearing this term. What is a bank? We'll invest a large amount of money to build a bank, and the bank will lend them money through mortgages, allowing them to complete the initial construction. Dolores said this before adding, "Of course, the bank won't lend money for free. We can set a high interest rate and use this method to earn money." Vivian quickly thought of the key point: what if they don't return the money they borrow? The forest races are actually not truly poor. Their tribes have accumulated treasures from generation to generation, they only lack primordial stones and certain resources that they need. Our loans have mortgages, so if the tribes want to borrow money from us, they have to put up a mortgage. Dolores added after saying this. In the future, when Miracle City has enough reputation, we can expand our business even further. The forest races have money, and it's not safe to keep large amounts of money in their tribes, so they can store it in the bank. Not only will we not charge them a storage fee, we'll even give them a certain amount of interest. We'll use the bank's money to pay a mortgage, using money to make money, creating an endless cycle. Good! Chu Tian was very excited. Very good. Dolores did not disappoint Chu Tian, actually thinking of this method. This fellow was destined to be recorded in history. She would become the founding ancestor of the continent's financial world. This is a detailed plan. Dolores gave a scroll to Chu Tian. I hope that the bank can open as soon as possible, giving Miracle City and Miracle Commerce a stronger motivation. Chapter 447. Miracle Bank's future was limitless. Not only would it increase Miracle City's influence in the future, it would allow Miracle City to control the economy of the entire forest, finally becoming the continent's business and financial center. Coming back to the modern world from the future allowed Chu Tian to have incomparably advanced knowledge. Therefore, he could clearly understand that Miracle Bank had great potential. If this idea came from Chu Tian's head, it wouldn't be strange at all. Dolores was a native that grew up in the forest, so for her to think of this was a very incredible matter. Chu Tian asked, "How much money do you think is appropriate to take from the company's treasury?" Dolores decisively replied, "All of it." "All of it?" "That's right," Dolores said in a very confident voice. "The Miracle Shopping Center has just started, so it will only be a trial with 20 small towns and a few large tribes, but I think the amount of loans won't be small. But after these powers borrow source stones, they will have to buy equipment, materials, technology, and agent fees from the company. They will also have to pay maintenance and technicians, so most of the source stones will flow back to Miracle City. Miracle Bank's source stones will circulate once and then flow back into Miracle City's pocket." Vivian was a bit confused. "We've opened our business, sold our products, increased our influence, and developed the Miracle Shopping Center and the bank, but in the end we've obtained a large amount of debt. We've eaten up all the benefits. How could there be this kind of good thing in this world?" Dolores blinked. "This is just this kind of good thing." Truly a large merchant, the cunning of the Fox clan was vividly displayed. With this Fox clan merchant team in Miracle City, how could they worry about not being able to make a lot of money in the future? After a few days, the young Miss, Yingying, and Nangong had all smoothly broken through. Their starlight immortal bodies had reached the large success realm, and they had broken through to the true spirit realm. When Meng Qingwu came out, she learned that Dolores was planning to build Miracle Bank. This made Meng Qingwu very surprised, but with her outstanding mind and intelligence, she instantly understood the benefits. Not simple. Truly not simple. This Fox clan woman was indeed a talent that could handle things alone. On the other hand, Miracle City's conscription was coming to an end. Chu Tian was the city lord and the one who started the conscription, so of course he had to personally take a look. The people in charge of the recruitment were Dongfang Haoran and Qin Bingyu. These two had low-key personalities, so they weren't very active in the upper echelons of Miracle Commerce. However, they were very direct and efficient, so the recruitment had been completed without any problems. Of course their contributions could not go unnoticed. 30,000 natives of the forest, who had gone through layers of selection, were standing neatly on the empty ground. They were arranged according to their size and race. Although their clothes and weapons were different, they already looked like a military unit. Not only were there recruits from Miracle City. The various tribes gathered around to join in the fun. This kind of scene was rarely seen in the forest. This was the first regular army in the Forest of Chaos and the first batch of professional soldiers. Sister Bing, Howren, you've worked hard. Before Chu Tian went on stage, he shook hands with the two of them. Chen Bingyu's style didn't change at all, always wearing a black mask and keeping a low profile. Dongfang Howren was different. Dongfang Howren's tall and strong body was covered in armor, looking like a veteran general on the battlefield. This made Chu Tian feel very satisfied. Dongfang Howren had grown very quickly in this period of time, so Chu Tian wanted to train him into a general of Miracle City's army. I believe that the soldiers participating in Miracle City's conscription are the strongest and most elite warriors of the forest. Chu Tian took a loudspeaker and went on stage. You are all elites picked out of 10, you are all warriors among warriors. Miracle City is in need of people, so we welcome you to become Miracle City's glorious soldiers. The eyes of the 30,000 recruits revealed looks of pride. The soldiers here had fought countless battles in the virtual arena, and they had passed a series of tests before finally becoming Miracle City's soldiers. For them to be able to stand here, it was the pride of a soldier. Not to mention that becoming a Miracle City soldier not only meant finding a good job for themselves, it also meant gaining quite a bit of glory and benefits for their tribes. I can clearly tell everyone that from the moment you chose Miracle City, you will welcome a different life. This is a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. Everyone will have a fair starting point. Wealth, power, and glory, it is inexhaustible. Chu Tian gave a passionate shout. From today onwards, we will carry the glory of Miracle City and fight for Miracle City. Let us create Miracle City's glory together. Roar, roar, roar. The recruits all roared out. The tribes of the forest were simple-minded, therefore it didn't take much brain power to lead this kind of army. As long as they were treated well, as long as they were given enough respect, as long as they were given a future they could look forward to, there would be many soldiers willing to work for Miracle City. Other than that, this city lord will use this chance to announce a large matter. Chu Tian loudly shouted, in order to give Miracle City's citizens better benefits, Miracle Commerce will establish Miracle Bank and open a savings account for the citizens. Every idle source stone in the hands of a Miracle City citizen can be used to open a savings account in Miracle City. You can deposit and withdraw as you wish, there are no restrictions. We will provide the safest financial protection for the citizens, and not only will we not charge any fees, we will also give interest to the citizens. 1% interest for a full month, 8% interest for half a year, and 20% interest for a full year. The Miracle City people were stunned. They all had strange expressions as they whispered in each other's ears. More and more source stones could be stored? This was just too incredible. A full year's interest was 20%. If 100 source stones were stored for a year, wouldn't it become 120 source stones? The gnomes had very long lifespans. If they stored source stones in Miracle Bank for 50 to 100 years, how much wealth would it become with the annual interest? Chu Tian chose to announce the establishment of Miracle Bank at the recruit ceremony to attract more people's attention. Miracle Bank's savings account was only open to citizens for now. This was mainly because Chu Tian was clear that Miracle Commerce's influence wasn't enough. Why would the forest locals and outside powers believe him? Not to mention that the Forest of Chaos would suddenly change. If Miracle City was destroyed one day, where would these people's wealth go? So Miracle Bank's savings account was a kind of welfare, opening it to the official citizens of Miracle City. When the time was right, they would expand it. But it was clear that even in Miracle City, most people didn't believe it. How could there be such an incredible matter? Miracle Commerce would take care of the source stones, and the source stones could be multiplied with interest, producing even more source stones? The results of Miracle Bank's opening were not good. Chu Tian used his status as the city lord to promote it and used Miracle Commerce's strength as a guarantee. He also showed the citizens that the space warehouse was safe and convenient, but the citizens maintained a wait-and-see attitude and had no interest. Chu Tian was very depressed. This was not a good sign. Although haste makes waste for this kind of business, and he had to take it slow, if everyone didn't have confidence in Miracle City and Chu Tian, how would they develop in the future? Chu Tian discussed it with Meng Qingwu and Dolores. Who cares? They would start lending in the forest first. Dolores led the fox race merchants around to negotiate. Finally, several strong local powers decided to use treasures of enough value as collateral, taking out a large amount of source stones from Miracle Bank to start a big business. Miracle Bank was 100% a high-interest loan. The treasures the locals used as collateral were valued at the market price of the forest, which was around double the value of the loan. The annual interest on the loan was 100%. Even like this, when the leaders appeared, the other tribes and large locals followed suit and were all willing to accept this harsh loan. This was because they understood that if they didn't take the loan, someone else would. If they didn't grasp this kind of good opportunity and someone else took it, it would be too late to regret it later. The worst result was that they couldn't repay the loan and would have to pay the bank the treasures in the space warehouse. Miracle Bank's successful loans gradually increased, and Meng Qingwu and Dolores began to have headache. This was troublesome. They didn't have enough source stones. These people were more enthusiastic about taking loans than they imagined. The treasures of the tribes were like trash. They all rushed to use them as collateral. These things were valued high in the forest market, so if Miracle Commerce shipped them out, wouldn't it be worth several times more? Therefore, no matter if the locals could repay the loan or not, this business was not a loss for Miracle Commerce. Moreover, giving the source stones to the locals would quickly improve the business system around Miracle City. The one who would benefit in the end would be Miracle City, so of course the company would do their best to lend. Meng Qingwu tightly knit her brows. How many source stones do we have left? There's only 10,000 left. Dolores's face was filled with worry. We've already stepped on the red line. If we keep taking loans, the city's operations will be in danger and the gnome's research base will be affected. But there are several important areas that haven't received loans yet. The gnome Great Elder Clark requests an audience. Clark? Invite him in. Clark brought several clansmen with him, carrying several boxes as he walked in. Meng Qingwu looked at the gnomes in a puzzled manner. Elder Clark, you are? The gnome Great Elder Clark waved his hand, and the gnome priests immediately opened the boxes, revealing large amounts of source stones in front of them. These 50,000 source stones are the source stones the gnomes haven't used for a long time. I'm prepared to deposit them in Miracle Bank for a year in the name of the gnomes. Meng Qingwu and Dolores were surprised before being filled with joy. This was truly an unexpected pleasant surprise. The gnomes would provide this large deposit, providing a large amount of support for Miracle Bank. Clark was not stupid. The gnomes would do this because the gnomes and Miracle City's benefits were linked. If Miracle City became prosperous, they would also benefit. The other reason was that the gnomes had seen Miracle Bank's stable profit model, so they had enough confidence in Miracle Bank. Miracle Bank's appearance would not only earn large amounts of money for Miracle City, it would also be a catalyst for the development of the entire area. Finally, Meng Qingwu signed a special agreement with Clark. The monthly and half-year interest on these 50,000 source stones were eliminated. As long as they were deposited for a year, they would provide 40% interest. To encourage and support the gnomes, they would double the interest. The gnomes were also very happy. A year wasn't considered much to the gnomes. 50,000 source stones in Miracle Bank would double in value in a year. This was something they didn't even dare think about in the past. The matter of the gnomes having a large deposit in Miracle Bank was immediately spread through Miracle Commerce's channels in Miracle City. This caused a large stir, and there were many powers and individuals that came to deposit, making the stagnant deposit business become more active. Miracle Bank obtained enough capital, continuing to lend and invest in the forest, while Miracle Bank was becoming more prosperous. At this time, there was a piece of news that came from southern Xia that made Chu Tian pay attention to it. Chapter 448. The Southern Summer Central State Laboratory had a piece of exciting news. The source energy computer had made a breakthrough. This was the most exciting thing for Chu Tian recently. Miracle Commerce had experienced several breakthroughs in its development over the past year, creating the source energy weapons, the space warehouse, and the spiritual world. Now, whether it was technology or production, it was facing a bottleneck. With Chu Tian's knowledge in this era, he could only use the crudest method to realize a part of it, before falling into a stagnant state. Now that the source energy computer had been successfully developed, it would instantly break the current ceiling and increase the potential of Miracle Commerce by a large amount, so it could be said that this was a very important matter. The source energy matrix is not stable, so we can't move it for now. What do you plan on doing? Meng Qingwu had participated in the source energy computer research before. Although she didn't know what use the source energy computer had, the Source Energy Computer Project could be said to be the project that took the longest time in Miracle Commerce. This was also one of the projects that Chu Tian had prepared the earliest. This complicated, troublesome, and strenuous project, if it wasn't worth it, Chu Tian would never do it. Young miss, go to the gnomes' laboratory. I want to borrow their remaining spatial crystals. Chu Tian made his decision. Nangong will contact Yun Tianhe and Gu Qianqiu. I will send the blueprints and materials for the transport tower to the warehouse and have them prepare it in Central State City. Vivian will personally make a trip there and reach Central State as soon as possible. She will build the transport tower for Southern Xia, making it easier for me to go there. Alright. The transport tower was very convenient. Once there was a transport tower, the two places would be very close and they could teleport at any time. However, the transport tower not only needed the incomparably precious eyes of the star, it also needed large amounts of spatial materials. Miracle Commerce didn't have many of these rare materials, and even the gnomes didn't have many in their several hundred years of storage. When Miracle City's transport tower was built, Chu Tian had already used most of the gnome's spatial attributed materials. Now that he was in a rush to build the second transport tower, Chu Tian had no choice but to borrow the gnome's spatial crystals. If these things were left in the hands of the gnomes, they would at most be used to make some storage equipment. It would be better to lend them to Chu Tian, and Chu Tian would just give them a space warehouse in the future. Everyone immediately began to carry out the order. Not good. Meng Yingying hurriedly ran in. The forest tribe is causing trouble in the city. Their leader is Arnold. We don't know how to deal with them. Quickly go and take a look. What were these guys doing? Under the Miracle Castle, several chiefs brought a large group of people to protest. The newly recruited guards of the city lord's castle were in a dilemma. On one hand, many of these people were from their tribes, so it wasn't good to directly fall out with them. Arnold, King dare to rebel? Arnold saw the angry Chu Tian and immediately shrunk his neck. He never thought that he would draw out Chu Tian. After hesitating for a few seconds, he loudly said, "We are not rebelling, we are only fighting for our legal rights. We want to see Miracle Bank's chairman." Miracle Bank was established and Meng Qingwu was the chairman and Dolores was the vice chairman. Arnold and the others did not want to see Meng Qingwu, rather they wanted to ask Dolores for an explanation. Why do you want to see her? Because that seductive fox Dolores is unfair. Arnold's large nostrils released steam. He looked very angry. Recently, she has been giving large amounts of primeval stones from the bank to the people outside, but she is not willing to lend us a single primeval stone. Why is that? It's just because we had some grudges before. This is clearly using her position to take revenge. We don't accept this. That's right. Outsiders can borrow money from the bank, but we can't. Our tribe will send out 500 elites to become Miracle City's regular soldiers. The chiefs were all filled with excitement, like they had suffered a large loss. This made Chu Tian feel like his head was about to explode. The so-called not worrying about scarcity but worrying about inequality. Before miracle banking was established, everyone didn't think much of it, but now that miracle banking was established, several tens of thousands of source stones were used to lend money, but they were all sent to distant tribes and small towns. These locals tried to apply, but they were all rejected. The brains of the forest natives weren't that good, so Dolores's attitude was immediately suspected of having ulterior motives. They remembered that the Fox clan would often clash with the nearby Minotaurs and Tiger people, so they naturally thought that Dolores was abusing her position to take revenge. They didn't know the city lord was in trouble. Actually, it wasn't just the locals that were complaining, even the citizens were feeling dissatisfied. For example, Chu Tian had recruited large amounts of elites from the forest to form an army, giving them special treatment and giving them stable positions. On the other hand, the citizens didn't receive the same treatment, so there were many gnomes that were dissatisfied with the city lord. Could this be blamed on Dolores and Chu Tian? The surrounding tribes were born around Miracle City, so they were all in the same sphere of influence. Dolores' large amounts of loans was not only to develop the bank, but also to create a larger commercial area, allowing the Miracle Shopping Center to cover a part of the area. Chu Tian's conscription was to stabilize the surrounding tribes and locals, letting everyone have a stable life. He also gave the locals large amounts of jobs to stabilize their lives, which was beneficial to the development of the area. But facing the dissatisfaction of the citizens, Chu Tian could only announce a large conscription. The citizens had to make up a certain proportion of the conscripted soldiers. Chu Tian asked, "What are you taking loans for?" "What else can we do?" Arnold confidently said, "The new area is about to open, we need to save money to fight the evil dragon. There have been more and more advertisements recently, and we can see the evil dragon's abilities. It doesn't seem like a fellow that is easy to deal with, so what's wrong with preparing a bit more source stones?" Did the locals only pursue this much? Chu Tian almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What did he think they needed source stones for? Chu Tian asked, "Do you know that loans need to be mortgaged? Miracle Bank will give out source stones with interest, and if you can't pay it back, the item will be confiscated." "Isn't it just mortgaging? We can take it out," several rich tribes said without any hesitation. "We're not afraid, we just want source stones." These locals had to take out a loan. "Everyone, please listen to me." Chu Tian knit his brows and thought about it. Then he suddenly said, "Miracle Bank was not created to earn a large sum of money, rather it was created to promote the development of the forest. The source stones we give out are not just to earn interest, but also to increase the value of the source stones in the forest, creating a win-win situation for the entire forest. Not only do we lend out source stones, we also need to ensure that the lender receives more benefit. Otherwise, wouldn't this loan be a blood-sucking method?" The locals were confused. "What do you mean?" "My meaning is that if you want to apply for a loan from Miracle Bank, then you have to take action. We only encourage business loans at this stage. We don't support personal loans or tribe loans for pleasure." Arnold had an unhappy expression. "The Minotaurs don't know how to do business." "Who said you have to do business to start a business?" Chu Tian clapped his hands. "Ying map?" Meng Ying quickly opened a large forest map. Chu Tian stood in front of the large map and pointed at the Minotaur Valley as he said, "The Minotaur Valley is rich in ore deposits and the Minotaurs are strong, so why don't they make a mine? Miracle City will welcome a period of rapid development, and not only will the ore sell well, the price will also increase. Isn't this a business opportunity? The Minotaurs can use the ore as an excuse to bring in Miracle Commerce's investment. We can make a Minotaur mine together, and wouldn't the Minotaurs have an endless source of income like this? Arnold felt this was reasonable. Borrowing money wasn't a long-term plan. The Minotaurs were already so poor that they only had their underwear left, so they would only become poorer the more they borrowed, never having a day to turn around. It was better to teach a man to fish than to fish. Miracle Commerce would work with the Minotaurs to make a mine. Miracle Commerce would provide transportation, mining tools, various technologies, and sales channels. The Minotaurs would only need to be in charge of mining and refining, so they would have a large income in the future. Chu Tian pointed at another area and said, "There is a very rare wood near this ogre tribe. This wood itself is a level 3 material and the entire forest is filled with it. You really don't know the treasure in front of you. We can also work with the ogres to make a lumberyard. This place is suitable for farming. This place is suitable for farming." The center of the Forest of Chaos was rich in resources. Even if Chu Tian randomly dug a hole, he could find a crystal mine that could be mined for 50 years. The rich resources were enough to make the entire forest rich. Look, this forest is rich in resources, there are treasures everywhere. Why do you need to worry about a few source stones in the bank? Chu Tian pointed out a large area on the map. I plan to open a forest industrial park here, and the various tribes can invest with Miracle Commerce. Those with money will contribute money, those with power will contribute labor, those with technology will contribute technology, those with resources will contribute resources, and those with channels will contribute channels. We will all split the profits and everyone will become rich together, so why do we need to harm each other over a small matter? Right. The locals were all excited. Miracle Commerce's space warehouse was no longer a secret. With the rich local resources and Miracle Commerce's channels, it was enough for everyone to become rich, no longer needing to worry about things like famine. Chu Tian spoke for a long time until his saliva was almost dry, finally convincing the locals to leave. He had only provided a preliminary idea. As for the specific plan, it was the young Miss business. This was something Chu Tian would not worry about at all. The forest was still very chaotic. The citizens, locals, and various powers were all mixed together. Only a patient and wise manager like the young Miss would be able to organize everything. Chu Tian was afraid anyway. Chu Tian, you're truly amazing, actually tricking these barbaric and unreasonable fellows. Tricking? Is this called tricking? Chu Tian rolled his eyes. If we want the area to be stable, we can only make everyone rich. This is something we have to do sooner or later, it's not just talk. I really don't know what Miracle City will become in the future. Meng Yingying looked at the silent and empty area with an emotional sigh. Vivian will need a few days to go to Southern Xia to build the transport tower. Do you have any other plans? Of course, we can't just directly go to Southern Xia. We need to go to a place to collect some things before we go back. Chapter 449. The basin where they fought the Lich Dragon had already been sealed by the gnomes. Although the earth-shattering battle had passed for a while, the entire area was still covered in a thick death aura. Several dozen miles of vegetation had withered and there were still undead wandering around. Whether it was Miracle City or the locals of other places, they were not interested in this place at all. The gnome Great Elder Clark had brought people in to dig, finally finding a space filled with strong death energy. This should be an ancient, undead ruin. The Lich had built the altar and array on top of the ruins, gathering the death energy that had been brewing for tens of thousands of years, finally condensing it into a terrifying energy that could destroy the entire city. If it wasn't for Chu Tian stopping them in time. Miracle City would have already turned into a death zone. Chu Tian brought Yingying, the little fox, the 18 divine servants, and the 10 Fox clan priests into the ruins. Everyone be careful. Chu Tian turned around and made a gesture. He looked into the deep underground space and said, "This place is filled with all kinds of dangerous undead." The Fox clan priests were all confused. Why did Chu Tian come here for no reason? Then again, he didn't lack experts by his side, so why did he choose the demonic god religion's priests? The demonic god religion's priests were not strong in battle, so the Fox clan's main value to Miracle City was beast taming and business. Damn, why does this place look so dark? Meng Yingying followed Chu Tian into the underground world. She felt her body turn cold, like there was ice water pouring into her pores. There are rotten bones all over the ground, it's just like a large tomb. What are you doing here? Are there hidden treasures here? Chu Tian revealed a laugh. Take a guess. Meng Yingying gave a snort. Clark had already brought people to explore the undead ruins, but because it was very dangerous and the negative energy was too strong, the team had to leave after entering a bit, so they didn't have much information to gather. Chu Tian was walking at the front with his sword drawn. The little fox was lying on his shoulder, sucking in large mouthfuls of energy. The death energy around them was sucked away, relieving the pressure on them. The entire underground world was like a huge, ancient tomb. The skeletons of the ancient creatures, under some kind of powerful force, actually formed spiraling bone pillars. It was these pillars that firmly supported the space. Chu Tian keenly sensed a powerful energy fluctuation. The entire ruin was not simply supported by a physical structure. It had formed some kind of profound and powerful energy field that enveloped the entire tomb. That was why it had not been damaged even after tens of millions of years. Even though the battle in the basin was extremely fierce, this place did not collapse in the slightest. Hey, when the time comes, you tell me, what exactly is in this broken place? Meng Yingying did not finish her words when her eyes suddenly widened and her snow-white teeth chattered, "Ghost, ghost, so many ghosts have appeared." The dozen or so people had just walked to a relatively spacious and flat area. There were spiraling bone pillars all around them, just like naturally formed stalactites rising from the ground. Only these bone pillars had large amounts of terrifying skulls embedded in them. At this moment, the skulls released a smoke-like energy. This energy quickly gathered in the air and quickly formed a fierce-looking ghost source spirit. There were many of them, and in the blink of an eye, there were several hundred of them. The dozen people were completely surrounded. The various ancient creature skeletons piled up all around them began to tremble. Hua! A bone arm reached out. Meng Yingying's slender leg was grabbed. She who was already frightened gave a sharp cry as she quickly kicked out. Meng Yingying's battle strength was not high, but she was still a true spirit cultivator. True spirit cultivator's spirit energy erupted and the bones were instantly shattered. Meng Yingying was still in shock as she found that the place where the bones touched her was smoking. It was a good thing she had the starlight immortal body to protect her, otherwise with this kind of strong death energy entering her body, her leg would have been mostly crippled. Hua la la. The entire world turned into a sea of bones. Countless strange skeletons slowly crawled out. There were so many of them that it was hard to imagine. There were quite a few complete ancient beast skeletons, and their bodies released an aura that was not inferior to a level 3 demon beast. Meng Yingying was scared silly. Run! Run your head! Chu Tian directly knocked her head. Truly useless. Don't tell others that you're with me in the future. Meng Yingying was very unconvinced. There were over 2,000 undead monsters awakened this time. These undead monsters had been sleeping in this tomb for who knows how long, and they were all very strong now. There were even some that were not inferior to true spirit experts. Meng Yingying was raised by Chu Tian, and she had never participated in any battles before. Although her cultivation was high, she was actually pitifully weak. How could she have seen this kind of scene before? Chu Tian patted the little fox. Let's go. The little fox immediately moved. Its figure flickered, and in an instant, it passed over the strongest undead monsters. Although the little fox's body looked like a normal little thing to them, it was like a bullet hitting its prey. These strong undead monsters collapsed with a single touch. They were monsters without intelligence in the end. The little fox could easily swallow their soul flames. Chu Tian waved his hand and the demonic god priests began to summon. Several dozen summoned beasts surrounded them, and the divine servants formed a barrier to block the attacks of these undead monsters. A skeleton bird quickly charged over. The divine servants shattered it with a single punch. Meng Yingying was stunned. When did these things become this strong? Nonsense, how could the puppets I refined be ordinary? Chu Tian gave an order to the demonic god priests. Do you see these undead souls? I need large amounts of these spiritual bodies. If you help me collect more, this city lord will greatly reward you. The Fox clan priests finally understood. It was no wonder Chu Tian would find the demonic god priest. Chu Tian's main goal in coming here was actually to collect these undead spirits. In the entire Miracle City, only the demonic god religion was proficient in preserving souls. This was the basis of their summoning technique. The little fox completely suppressed the strongest undead. The summoned beasts, Chu Tian, and Meng Yingying blocked the other undead, and the demonic god priests took out bottles filled with strange runes. They used some unknown demonic technique to suck in the undead spirit. Meng Yingying wasn't afraid after getting used to it. Although there were countless undead monsters, they couldn't do anything to them for now. Not to mention that they had city return scrolls, so they didn't need to worry about their safety at all. She asked in a strange voice, "Why are you collecting so many spirits? Don't ask so much, just work properly." The undead monsters in this place seemed like they could never be killed. After fighting for an entire half an hour, not only did the undead around them not decrease, there were even more of them. "City Lord, the soul-sealing bottles are already full, we can't store any more." The bottles in the demonic god priest's hands were filled with purple soul energy. They kept hitting the walls of the bottles, as if they would shatter the bottles at any moment. "Enough, let's retreat." Chu Tian led everyone and began to retreat. However, before they left this strange tomb, he cast a glance into the distance. His gaze revealed a look of contemplation. This place was clearly not formed naturally. It was probably a place set up by an ancient powerhouse. So, what exactly was sealed here? It wasn't time yet. Now wasn't the time. Since the ruins weren't far from Miracle City, it wouldn't be too late to explore them in the future. When Chu Tian returned to the city, it was already dark. This trip's harvest wasn't bad. There were over 100 spirits sealed in the soul-sealing bottles that weren't weak. He directly brought these things to the laboratory. The gnomes were very surprised by Chu Tian's sudden rebellion. Clark asked in a curious voice, "City Lord, is this appropriate?" Chu Tian directly threw a blueprint to him. "Don't ask so much, go prepare it immediately." The gnomes didn't dare be careless and immediately went to work. Meng Yingying looked at Chu Tian. "What medicine are you selling in your gourd? Ask less and look more. How can you talk so much? I'm too talkative, annoying you to death." "Take a hit." Yingying's round but was slapped. Meng Yingying angrily chased after him, but she was taken down by the divine servants in just 2-3 moves. How could she fight Chu Tian? She could only angrily say some words. She would call her good sisters Nangong Yun and Vivian over, and the three of them would beat him together. He really was a fool. Nangong Yun and Vivian were indeed good at fighting, but the two of them worshipped Chu Tian like he was a god, so they didn't dare make a move against Chu Tian. While the two of them were bickering, the gnomes were already prepared. Clark stared at the source energy array on the ground. It was releasing a purple glow and was made up of several arrays. If his guess wasn't wrong, this was a soul-attributed array. who had seen a soul-attributed array in this era before. The gnomes were all curious as they came over. A soul-sealing bottle was placed in the center of the array. With a pu sound, the bottle cap flew up. A dozen or so evil spirits rushed out, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Chu Tian calmly said, "Activate the array." The gnome priest quickly activated the array, and the evil spirits were covered in light, immediately letting out sharp screams. These spirits were naturally formed vengeful spirits, so their resentment, hatred, and killing intent were too strong. Chu Tian's array could purify them one by one without killing them. Clark was very shocked. Resentment and hatred were the source of resentment, so they were good at spiritual attack. If the negative energy was purified, in theory, it would be impossible for them to form a body. Chu Tian purified the evil spirits and kept them in their pure spiritual form. This was inconceivable. Of course, after being purified, they didn't have any energy left, leaving behind an empty shell of a spiritual body. These spirits are already in a stable state without any attacks because they are made of soul energy and spiritual energy. These two things are the foundation of thinking. Chu Tian said this while making a few wrinkles. As long as we modify these spirits, they can obtain simple thinking abilities. This is the simplest form of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. Everyone's expressions changed. Chapter 450. Artificial intelligence was a very advanced concept. It would be strange if primitive people like Clark and Meng Yingying could understand it. Artificial intelligence was artificial intelligence. This kind of thing could not be considered a life form, nor could it be considered an undead. It was just a tool that could think. Since it had intelligence, it could think. Since it could think, it could learn. Since it could learn, it could progress. This was the difference between an artificial intelligence and a normal puppet. Because the spiritual body's level isn't high enough, it can only form basic intelligence. Chu Tian said to the several artificial intelligence that had already been modified, although these spiritual bodies have intelligence, they can't form their own consciousness. Therefore, they are an excellent intelligent tool. They will never be tired, annoyed, or afraid. In the future, they can be mass-produced and used in many different fields, which will greatly increase our efficiency. The gnomes were deeply shocked. Artificial intelligence could control most knowledge through self-learning, so it was hard to imagine their future potential. Whether it was city management or laboratory research, artificial intelligence could occupy a very important position. This was because artificial intelligence was an existence with no emotions but intelligence. They knew how to think, but they didn't have any consciousness. They were absolutely fair, absolutely calm, and absolutely observable. They really never would have thought. Chu Tian had casually created such an incredible thing. Meng Yingying didn't think too much about it, but she knew that with tens of thousands of artificial intelligence, there would be tens of thousands of scholars who wouldn't get tired and would always be working. The Yun sect's research efficiency would be greatly increased. Clark quickly asked, "Sir City Lord, can you prepare a batch of these artificial intelligence for the research base?" This kind of low-level artificial intelligence is very easy to produce. With the millions of departed spirits in the death ruins, it isn't a problem for us to produce as many as we want. Chu Tian said this before shaking his head. The biggest problem is how to train them. Although the artificial intelligence will never get tired, this kind of low-level intelligent body's intelligence is limited, so their learning speed is very slow. If we want them to learn how to speak and learn other skills, it would take at least 5-8 years. If we want them to have enough knowledge, it would take several decades or even 100 years. The gnomes disagreed. Half-elves had a lifespan of a few hundred years, but spirit bodies had an unlimited lifespan. If a group of spirit bodies could be raised from scratch and passed down from generation to generation, after a few thousand years, Each of these fellows would become a top-notch master. Of course, Chu Tian knew what they were thinking. Even though the theory of artificial intelligence can exist forever, the memory space of an artificial intelligence is limited. This kind of low-level artificial intelligence can only learn to speak and communicate daily. At most, they can master some basic knowledge. When their memory space is filled, they can no longer improve. There's a growth limit? Clark frowned. Then what should we do? If it was just ordinary daily communication and assistant work, it would at most free up a lot of manual labor and unskilled brain work. The invention of artificial intelligence could save people a lot of trouble, but there was no way to create more value. There are two ways to change it. The first is to create a more advanced artificial intelligence. Chu Tian tossed something to Clark. Here, purify this thing first. That's the soul fire of a lich. Clark recognized it with a single glance. This was the lich's soul fire found in the remains of the lich dragon after Chu Tian fought with it. It contained all of the lich's memories and wisdom. Clark was very curious why Chu Tian kept it, but now Clark finally understood. This soul fire could also be used to create an artificial intelligence. The soul fire needed a carrier. Chu Tian disassembled 10 spirits and used an array to refine them into one. Then he purified the lich's soul fire. Although this lich had lived for over 2,000 years, it had already lost the ability to feel anything. However, its consciousness had not been completely eliminated. Chu Tian did not need an artificial intelligence that still had its own consciousness. Combine. The lich's soul fire was poured into the new body. The spirit body's appearance immediately changed, turning into the lich's appearance from before. A large robe covered its body, and a pair of glowing red eyes could be seen from within the hood. However, unlike the lich from before, this was a specter in the form of a spirit. The lich's power had completely disappeared, but its memories and intelligence remained. From today onwards, your name will be 0. Understood, Sir City Lord. There was a fluctuation around 0, and the sound of the air vibrating was transmitted to everyone's ears. This voice was very mechanical, without any emotions or consciousness at all. This was completely different from the spirit body he had just created. This was a high-level artificial intelligence. Whether it was its current knowledge or future learning potential, it was not something a low-level artificial intelligence could compare to. Chu Tian asked, Clark, what do you think? This is truly a wonderful technology. Clark's words were not false. He never would have dreamed that Chu Tian would turn the lich into an intelligent puppet. From now on, the lich's 2,000 years of accumulated wisdom and memories could all be used by Chu Tian, only Sir City Lord. This kind of artificial intelligence is very hard to make. What is the City Lord's second method? The second method. Chu Tian deliberately dragged out his voice. That is to use the artificial intelligence as the core of the computer and implant it into the supersource energy computer. Even if it is a low-level artificial intelligence, as long as it is combined with the source energy computer's powerful calculation, storage, and analysis abilities, it will become an unimaginable existence. The gnomes were stunned. What was Sir City Lord saying? Why couldn't they understand at all? At this time, Vivian used the communication device to contact Chu Tian. She told Chu Tian that she had arrived in southern Xia's central state and that the transport tower was currently being constructed. It would only take half a day before it could be used. Chu Tian's eyes lit up. I'm too lazy to explain, it's better to see it with my own eyes than to say it. Clark, come with me to southern Xia. Sir City Lord, you... What did you say? Clark has lived in the forest for 380 years and has never left the forest before. He never thought he would leave the forest one day because the forest of chaos is just too big. There are enough resources and space inside, enough for the gnomes to live and reproduce. Go to southern Xia? A human country? That's right, Vice City Lord Vivian has already prepared transport towers. It won't take long to connect the two sides. Clark never dreamed that he would be able to leave the Forest of Chaos one day and head to a human country. When Vivian finished building the transport tower in Central State City, Chu Tian brought a large group of people to Miracle City's transport tower. He first tested the other side's spatial coordinates and confirmed that the transport could be completed. Chu Tian did not waste time. Everyone prepare yourselves, the spatial journey is about to begin. As soon as his voice fell, Chu Tian activated the transport array. The space began to slightly tremble as invisible energy quickly gathered, condensing into a hard-to-see spatial force field. When the spatial structure began to change, the elements in the air were pushed away, finally releasing a dazzling white light. It was unknown how long it had been since he had experienced this feeling. When Chu Tian lived in the future 30,000 years in the future, there were transport towers and spatial gates everywhere. He even needed to use one to pee, so after transmigrating to this era, these things were especially precious. The light disappeared. Chu Tian's surroundings completely changed. There were no more green mountains, no more waterfalls, no more forests, and what replaced it was a large human-style palace. Yun Tianhe, Gu Qianqiu, the countless Yun sect scholars, as well as the Southern Summer King, Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, and the others, they were all gathered here, witnessing this miracle together. Success! Gu Qianqiu and Yun Tianhe roared out. Each scholar began to cheer. The Southern Summer King, Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, and the others were all filled with excitement. When Chu Tian was transported over, they didn't dare believe this was real. How could there be such a magical technique in this world? Now they were told that there was nothing impossible in this world. At least it was like this for Chu Tian. Greetings to the country guarding ruler. Greetings to the country guarding ruler. Greetings to the Cloud Dream Marquis. A white light flashed around Chu Tian. Meng Qinggu, Meng Yingying, and Nangong Yun, these people that had been separated for a long time, all returned to Southern Xia. These people were simply legends of Southern Xia. Especially Chu Tian, he was simply like a god. All of Southern Xia worshipped him, and his status was not inferior to the Southern Summer Kings. Chu Tian walked over with a smile. Everyone, long time no see. Greetings to the Southern Summer King. The Southern Summer King gave a bitter laugh, not knowing what to say. The white light flashed again. Clark was transported over. When everyone saw him, they all revealed shocked expressions. The gnomes rarely came in contact with humans, and this was a race that had only been seen in book. They never thought that they would see one in front of them. But compared to the humans' shock, Clark's brain had simply short-circuited. When he appeared in the royal palace of Southern Xia, when he saw the various humans around him, when he felt the different environment, he almost suspected that he had not woken up yet. This is the gnome Great Elder Clark. Although he does not have the title of a scholar, he is very knowledgeable. It is entirely possible for him to become a country scholar or even a country scholar. Chu Tian gave a simple introduction. Elder Clark, this is Southern Xia, a small human kingdom to the north of the Forest of Chaos. Everyone was filled with deep respect. So it's an expert from the Forest of Chaos. The Southern Summer King nodded. Since you are honored guests, Southern Summer will not neglect you. We will immediately hold a banquet to welcome our guests and also to welcome the country guarding ruler and the Cloud Dream Marquis. There's no need for a banquet. Chu Tian did not come back to eat and drink. I want to see the source energy computer. Yun Tianhe and Gu Qianqiu were interested. Yes, Chairman, please come with us. Chapter 451. There was a large change in Southern Xia. Central State City's population had increased by a third compared to when Chu Tian left, and it was twice as prosperous as before. This was not only because Central State City had become the imperial city of southern summer, but also because it was the birthplace of miracle commerce. Miracle Commerce had a large laboratory in Central State City and a large industrial park, which directly boosted Central State City's growth. Especially after the Miracle Commerce Space Warehouse was opened, Miracle Commerce often sold resources from the Forest of Chaos to Southern Xia, which greatly increased Southern Xia's strength. At this moment, people like Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, and the others had all broken through their bottleneck. The two of them were now experts in the first true spirit layer. The barbarian berserkers trained in Southern State's Berserker Training Camp had been hired by Southern Xia to form an army. They had also bought large amounts of source energy weapons through Miracle Commerce's factory and used the Four States Lake as a natural barrier, so it was hard for the Warhound's kingdom to gain any advantage. Now that Southern Xia had recovered its strength, it was not weaker than before. Southern Xia quickly became famous in a short period of time. There were caravans coming to Southern Xia from the surrounding countries in order to buy products from Miracle Commerce. Therefore, although Southern Xia's citizens still used Southern Summer gold coins, they had already begun to use source stones for large transactions. This was a sign of connecting to the international market. Southern Xia, becoming the great summer country, was just around the corner. Clark walked on the streets of Central State City and felt like he was in another world. There were several dozen airships flying back and forth in the sky. There were tall buildings and various large screens, all showing all kinds of eye-catching advertisements and the sound of horns coming from the street. There were fewer beast carriages on the street. Most likely because of Miracle Commerce's culture, Central State had become a very innovative place. There were already prototype source energy hover cars powered by source energy batteries. Now there were many people using this new convenient transportation tool, traveling through the city like beetles. This was truly too shocking. How could a small country like Southern Xia develop to such an extent? The prosperity and affluence of the human city far surpassed Clark's imagination. He did not dare believe that this was only the capital of a small country. The rapid rise of the humans in the last few hundred years was not without reason. Perhaps in another few thousand years, the elves and spirit beasts' limelight would be suppressed by the humans. The Central State Laboratory had also changed greatly. After Chu Tian left Central State, he took a part of the business with him and placed it in the Southern State Laboratory. The Central State Laboratory focused on the source energy computer, and after several expansions, it was doubled in size. There were over 2,000 people working on the source energy computer. With the core technology and ideas provided by Chu Tian, the research team of more than 2,000 people went through more than 135,000 adjustments and experiments before they finally completed something that was ahead of the times. When the members of the Central State Laboratory knew that Chu Tian was coming, they immediately ran out to welcome him. Chu Tian saw several familiar figures among them. For example, the Lin Xian siblings, the two founders of the Heavens Alliance. Now that they had joined Miracle Commerce and had become official researchers of the Yun sect, they were young and promising, making people envious. They were walking on the road to realizing their dreams. Greetings to the chairman and vice chairman. Everyone excitedly bowed down, almost kneeling down to Chu Tian and Lin Xian. These were scholars from all over the world, and a portion of them had never seen Chu Tian before. They could only understand this person through Chu Tian's image and deeds. Now that Chu Tian had become a god worshipped by the people of Southern Xia, with this legendary person appearing in front of them, how could these people not be excited? Chu Tian was very surprised. How many people have come? That's natural. Gu Qianxiu had already broken through to the true spirit realm, and he looked much younger than before. Perhaps it was because his life was more fulfilling and filled with energy. Not only are there scholars from Southern Xia, there are also many people who didn't hesitate to travel thousands of miles from other countries to study in Southern Xia. They have all become Yun sect scholars, and there are even 4 great scholars. Chu Tian nodded. Not bad, not bad, the Yun sect can be considered strong. With the Yun sect becoming stronger, the happiest person was of course old man Yun Tianhe. The Yun sect originated from the central state Yun family. The Yun family was a small country's family, but now they were able to use this method to become famous, and they could participate in the Yun sect's research. This was truly a breakthrough. The Yun sect's current strength was not that strong. Among the gnomes that Chu Tian had allied with, there were at least several hundred great scholars in terms of academic level. However, the geographical separation would cause academic isolation, so the human and gnome scholars' research methods were different. The two needed to communicate with each other to integrate. Not to mention the fact that the Yun sect was established by Chu Tian. Gu Qianqiu, Yun Tianhe, and the other Yun sect scholars had been studying with Chu Tian for an entire year, and they had grasped large amounts of Miracle Commerce's core technology. This was a gap that no scholar in the world could catch up to, so they couldn't be judged by their knowledge. Chu Tian's group began to tour the Central State Laboratory. Although a portion of the Central State Yun sect's research had been placed in Southern State, this was still the earliest research center of Miracle Commerce, so it was still the place where Miracle Commerce's technology was most concentrated. Almost every product and technology of Miracle Commerce had been stored. I suggest that Great Elder Clark form a group of scholars when he returns and have the gnome scholars come to Central State to study for a while. What do you think? That's exactly what I wish for, that's exactly what I wish for. Clark had already been deeply shocked by Miracle Commerce. Clark finally understood Chu Tian's background, and he also felt a large opportunity and future. Most of the gnomes were scholars, Miracle City's resources were much stronger than Central State's, and Miracle City's research center was much larger than Central State's. Moreover, Chu Tian had already made Miracle Commerce his headquarters, so the Yun sect's future headquarters would be in Miracle City. The gnomes would have a large opportunity. If they could join the Yun sect, the gnomes would have a decisive position in the Yun sect. This was enough for the gnomes to be recorded in history, becoming the representative of the continent's scholars, pioneers of invention and innovation, becoming a large influential clan in another way. Yun Tianhe opened the door to a laboratory. Rows of drawer-like black boxes appeared in front of them. When one of the black boxes was pulled out, each box was filled with source energy array slabs. There were 6 of these black boxes, forming a hexagon. They were all connected together, forming a large and complex source energy matrix. This source energy matrix was made up of over 10 arrays, and each array had over 100 source energy arrays. There were over 300,000 runes in total, and it needed around 10 energy columns to operate at the same time. These are the main units, they are the first-generation source energy matrix. Yun Tianhe said in a very proud voice, "This source energy matrix contains over 300 source energy array processing centers and 8 information storage arrays. Its calculation speed can reach 500 million times per second, which is enough to process a large amount of information." Calculating 500 million times per second? Clark revealed a stunned expression. With this kind of powerful calculation ability, if it was used on source energy array deductions or experiments, how much of a help would it be? 500 million times? Chu Tian shook his head. It's too slow. This was still slow. Everyone didn't know what to say. Not to mention the size is too big. Chu Tian looked at the 6 large black boxes and shook his head. We need to increase the strength of the source energy array and also shrink the size of the array, otherwise a single source energy array would take up the entire room. It would be too bulky and cumbersome, it would not be good for popularizing it. Yun Tianhe and Gu Qianqiu both wiped their sweat. The chairman's request could scare a person to death. This source energy matrix took over a year to make. Did he want to popularize this thing to the entire world? That was simply a joke. Chu Tian said, "We are preparing to make an automatic array engraving device. Together with an intelligent computer, array masters will not need to personally engrave runes one by one in the future. All talismans and alchemy production will be automated and the production efficiency will increase." The automatic array engraving device needed source stones to operate. Because the source energy contained in source stones was the closest to the human body, it could be used to create source energy arrays. Source energy batteries were an industrial energy source that could maintain source energy arrays, but it could not be used to create source energy arrays. So, the array engraving device would cost a lot, but it would free up large amounts of labor, allowing them to increase their technology. Gu Qianxiu said, "This source energy matrix is still missing a core." "There's no need for you to say it, I've brought it." Chu Tian gently waved his hand and the artificial intelligence Zero was released. "Zero, begin the fusion." Zero's illusory body floated to the center of the giant source energy matrix. There was a crystal there and Zero's body melted into it. Almost in an instant, an invisible energy spread out and the entire source energy matrix was activated. Chu Tian directly asked, "Zero, how do you feel?" Zero's voice came from the matrix. "The entire array has been connected to me." "Is Zero really that strong?" Meng Yingying was a bit in disbelief. "You shouldn't be bragging, right?" Chu Tian snappily said, "If you don't believe me, you can test him." "Test me?" Meng Yingying loudly asked a series of questions. "Zero, let me ask you, 252-5413 times 434, 2342 times 21,343 times 43,543 times 654,245 times 143,432. What is the final result?" Zero didn't hesitate to answer in half a second. Meng Yingying spent several minutes to calculate it and found that it wasn't wrong at all. The several hundred decimal places were all calculated, and she instantly revealed a look of admiration. Chu Tian was amused by Meng Yingying. "You want to ask Zero this kind of child's play question?" Meng Qingwu never thought that the combination of the artificial intelligence and the source energy matrix would have such a shocking effect. If this source energy computer is brought to Miracle City, it can be used to manage Miracle City's accounts, bank data, citizens' information, and even city planning. I think it will be very convenient. How could it be just like that? Chu Tian said with a smile. The source energy matrix system's calculation speed cannot be compared to the human brain. Using it to create a spiritual space will be more stable, using it to invent new source energy arrays will be more outstanding, using it to control source energy weapons will be more terrifying, and using it to control production will be more precise. In the future, when the computing power increases by several hundred or thousand times, we can even use it to calculate various changes. In short, its functions are not something you can imagine. That's right. Zero was the continent's first super-source energy computer. Although it couldn't compare to humans in terms of invention and creation, it was something no mortal could compare to in terms of logic and calculation. It had already reached the realm of spiritual gods. Chu Tian ordered, "Young miss, send Zero to Miracle City. You will be the only person with the highest authority other than me. From now on, Zero will be Miracle City's management system. I believe that with this thing, Miracle City's development will increase by a large amount." Meng Qingwu asked, "When can the second one be made?" Gu Qianxiu and Yin Tianhe looked at each other. "I'm afraid it will take at least a month." "That long? We can't." Chu Tian shook his head and said, "Recruit more people, I'll have the gnomes come over to help you. First create the array machine, we don't have time to make it one by one. This thing needs to be mass-produced, it needs to be smaller and smaller, and it needs to be faster and faster." Yes. The birth of an intelligent computer. This was the true beginning for Chu Tian. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.